Am I the asshole by not inviting a slow eater to dinner night out? So me, 35 male, and my wife, 37 female, are making plans to go to dinner with some family friends. My wife's originally from Turkey, and sometimes going out to dinner in her country and culture runs a bit long. However, it's usually because people socialize during dinner, not because people eat slow. When I asked who's joining us, she names off 3 couples. I'm changing their names to American for simplicity. Couple A, the Joneses, Couple B, the Davidsons, and Couple C, the Matisses, or Mattis. Now, Couple A and B, I don't have an issue with, and we get along great. Couple C, though, Kelly Mattis, is the slowest eater I have ever met. For some backstory, the first time we went out with the Mattis couple at a chain restaurant that's known for its pasta, she was slowly eating her salad. She ate each thing one at a time. When the main course was brought out, she wasn't even done with her salad. Then when everyone else had finished eating the main course, she wasn't even 1/4 into her meal. She's taking tiny little bites off of her meal. Meanwhile, she's engaging in the conversation at the table with smiles and laughter, but everyone else ate and finished at a normal pace. Our plates were getting taken away, and hers remained with most of her food remaining untouched. She even got offended when the check was brought out, and a server asked, "Can I box it up for you?" In which she replied, "I'm still eating." Almost 30 minutes later of us just sitting there, she only ate half her meal and said, "Oh, I'm full." You're full of shit is what you are, Kelly. Even at dinner parties, Kelly still eats painfully slow. It's painful to watch her take tiny little bites on kebabs, even though she's engaging in whatever conversation is going on at the table. Even when the coffee and dessert are brought out, she literally nibbles at her cake or fruit. So I told my wife no to Mattis couple. I explained why, and she kind of agreed with me, but explains, it's almost a cultural thing. People take their time with family and friends at the dinner table in Turkey. Yeah, and she obviously takes the piss, Miss Wife. There's a difference. However, I stood firm saying no because I didn't want the dinner to be dragged out longer than it had to be. My wife is kind of upset because she really likes Kelly's company and friendship. I asked if Kelly has a medical condition or a social condition where she has to eat slowly and take tiny bites. Her response was, "Not that I'm aware of." So I again say no to the Mattis couple. This is the first time I downright do not want someone to join us for dinner. I like Bob Mattis, but I can't stand his wife eating so effing slowly. Am I the asshole for not inviting this couple because the wife is a painfully slow eater? FYI, dinner was great and everyone ate at a normal pace with no complaints. In the comments, Squids and Brains says, "So when the check arrives, that's when you're just about to leave. This woman ate for half an hour longer, meaning she only kept you half an hour by eating slowly. You're prioritizing 30 minutes of inconvenience over your wife's close friend. I understand the irritation, but you're still being an asshole. A small one. You're the asshole." Edit. A lot of people seem to be assuming that I've never encountered this situation. I have. It can be annoying, but it's nowhere near as unbearable as folks are making it out to be. Unless OP has left out that they have somewhere scheduled to be after this, and this woman is causing them to miss it, I fail to see how this is so horrible of this woman. It's not long. Everyone is still talking. I think it's selfish for OP to entirely exclude a close friend of his wife before even considering a less nuclear option, such as just asking the woman beforehand if she would mind cutting her meal a little shorter once everyone is ready to leave. Westminster Abbey says, "I seriously doubt the waiters or waitresses bring out the check as soon as everyone else was done eating. They probably came by a few times, checked out the table, asked if anyone else needed anything, etc., before finally bringing out the check." From the description, it sounds like there was quite a while between everyone finishing and the waitress asking if Kelly wanted a box. She said she was still eating, and then they waited about half an hour for Kelly. So this was not just 30 minutes of inconvenience, probably at least an hour. If this was a table of 6 and she wastes just an hour of everyone else's time, she's wasted a total of at least 5 hours, probably more. I'm sure it could be argued that it isn't wasted time, but many people feel uncomfortable sitting at a restaurant table long after they've finished eating. I mean, she's wasted an hour of 5 people's time. That's such a weird way to word it. Not the asshole. It's really socially unaware of her to always do that when other people are finished, especially if she's getting upset at waiters over bringing the check. Some people really can't eat that quickly though, and it's also much healthier to eat slowly. So I see both sides because it's annoying to wait, but to be rushed is worse in my opinion. When you're the only person who has a problem and you always have the same problem, then the problem is you. Literally nobody else in their friend group has issues eating at a normal and relaxed pace. It's bad enough that the husband has had multiple people mention it to him. This isn't a lady being rushed to eat, it's a lady who flat out doesn't eat and then pulls a power move to force everyone to stay late because she didn't eat normally. You're the asshole. Damn dude, what's the rush? Is there something pressing after the dinner like a movie or something? It seems like a really silly thing to get so bent out of shape about. If you just want to shovel in the meal and get the hell out, I guess it makes sense not to invite them. But in my opinion, our culture, the US, as I'm assuming you're the same, has meals all wrong. I'm taking a stand on this one. All you're the asshole Andys for this story can get bent and eat my shorts. I'm gonna say it. Don't make me say it. I don't care that you broke your elbow. No, I'm kidding. I don't care that you're defending Kelly in this situation. OP is pissed off, and as you can tell from my commentary during the story, I'm pissed off for OP. You might be cool with having the patience of a saint in this situation, or the patience of someone that's more saintly than a saint, but I think it's incredibly rude to take that long to eat, and to eat like that. She's also had it mentioned to her to hurry up. Everyone else is sitting there awkwardly being like, is she done? What's going on? I'm gonna guess that they do have places to be. I'm gonna guess they want to be in bed, asleep, ready for the next day. They don't want this dragged out longer than it has to be. All well and good if you want to go to bed past 11 o'clock, past midnight. That's cool, but I want to be in bed by 9 or 10 o'clock. And if you're dragging out this dinner date with our community longer than it needs to be, and like, everyone's side-eyeing Kelly? Kelly's the problem, brother. Don't expect to be invited to social occasions when you keep muddying the waters of those social occasions and making things awkward. Is that not socializing 101? Not the arsehole OP. And now, on to the updates. Backstory. My wife has a slow and... sorry, I messed that up. A close and awesome friend, Kelly, who is an incredibly slow eater. When I mean slow, I mean slow. I first noticed this when we went out for pasta. We'd all finished our food, and she was only 1/4 done. When the check came, the waiter asked if she can box up her food, but Kelly said, "I'm still eating." That's another one against Kelly. Rude to waiters. Kelly, why can't you just say, "Sorry, I'm not done eating yet. I really appreciate that. You can box it up soon when I'm done." Not, "I'm still eating. Screw you for doing your job, mate." This wasn't the first, nor was it the last time. I asked my wife if she has a medical condition that forces her to eat slow, and she said no. I then asked her husband Bob through text, and again he said no. Bob mentioned that when they go out to eat with others, Kelly is too focused on people and the conversation that she doesn't eat. So at home when they eat, he absolutely does not talk to her or even look at her, which forces Kelly to eat at a normal or regular pace. Dysfunctional relationship. Bob, that's crazy to me, Bob. That's wild. But I guess that's a compromise. Good on you, Bob. So then my wife started asking around her friends if they've noticed Kelly eating slowly. To our surprise, the response was no, at least not until that point. My wife makes plans for a group of 7 of us to go out for dinner, but told me to choose the place. It's mostly other women involved, and I asked if Kelly and husband were coming, and she confirmed that they were. So our party will be me, my wife, Kelly, Bob, and 3 other lady friends for dinner. I picked an all-you-can-eat, but you cook your own food Korean BBQ place. The catch, you only have a 2-hour time limit. That's great. I thought this would likely force Kelly to eat at a normal pace, but nope. We were seated at 7:45, and at the 2-hour mark, the waiters shut off our burners and brought the check. Kelly still had her first and second serving on her plates. She told the waiter, "I'm still eating." They kindly explained that we had hit our 2-hour limit and that they needed the table. Kelly is obviously upset but can't do anything about it. After we pay, we're outside the restaurant and the ladies are making plans to get coffee or something. And then it happens. Kelly says, "Can we go somewhere where they serve food? I'm actually still hungry." And my wife says, "Did you not eat enough in there?" "Well, no, I didn't get a chance to finish since our time was up." Bob says, "Seriously? We had 2 hours. What were you doing in those 2 hours?" And Kelly says, "It wasn't 2 hours. You're being unreasonable again." Friend 1 says, "No, it literally was 2 hours. The waiter told us we had 2 hours at the beginning and they kept a timer. Did you not notice all the food we were cooking?" Kelly's like, "It couldn't have been 2 hours. There's no way. Their timer must have been off, and I saw the food and it smelled really, really good." And Bob says, "Then why didn't you eat it? Between me and OP, we alone had 9 servings between us." Kelly says, "Whatever. The point is, I'm hungry. Let's go somewhere they serve food." The ladies looked a bit annoyed, but agreed to go somewhere where they can have coffee and Kelly can eat. Bob and I decided not to join them. Bob had to work the next day, so he went, and I wanted to catch the last few night races, and I went home. At around 1:30 a.m., that's crazy. 1:30? My wife returned home and told me the events that happened. They went to a Middle Eastern lounge and restaurant, and the ladies offered coffee and dessert, and Kelly ordered a meal. At 12:30, the ladies were ready to call it a night, and again, Kelly hadn't eaten her entire meal. Now everyone began questioning Kelly and her eating habits. Being put on the spot and now overwhelmed, Kelly went outside to calm down. My wife followed her outside and tried to defuse the situation with Kelly, but she was very defensive. She tried to tell Kelly that it's not really a big deal, but people are now more aware and concerned of her eating habits since I, her husband, had pointed it out, and her husband Bob confirmed it. It didn't help, and Kelly called her husband and went off on him. My wife took Kelly home, but they didn't talk that much. I think the damage has been done. In the comments, Fabuki707 says, "They started at 7:45, 2 hours later they ended their dinner at 9:45, and the ladies went to a lounge to have coffee and dessert. 12:30 and you still are not done eating? I know some slow eaters, but damn, woman. 2 hours at a Korean barbecue and you're somehow not yet full? Girl, what the hell are you doing? If you're a slow eater, you either pre-game or wait till you get home / by yourself and eat to fullness. Don't hold other people hostage to your stomach." 2 hours at a Korean barbecue, and the only reason I would be eating slowly is that I'm now 99% bulgogi, and the food is now having to be stored in my cheeks for later. That's great. I'm smuggling this amazing Wagyu beef home, and you can't stop me. At first, I thought it was just a normal, relatively slow eater. It is crazy. Then the third-party inputs started coming in. Waiters asking to box her food, staff asking her to leave, and then complaining that she hasn't eaten enough and requested to change the plans. The part where she claimed to exist in a different space-time continuum was my favorite. When I'm talking, time stops, okay? Yes, that is how it works. You are victimizing me and my timeline. What is she, Doctor Who? I stand corrected in my previous assertions here, and anyone that disagrees, you don't have to comment. You don't have to let me know. I know I'm right. I don't like Kelly and her little conniptions here. She is the devil incarnate when it comes to being in social occasions with her. She may be your fun and games to talk to, but she's gonna be the reason that your body clock is all out of whack, because 1 minute it's 7:45, she opens her mouth, and the next minute it's 1 in the morning. And what are you gonna do? Talking about the situation and bringing it up is obviously too rude for Kelly to be able to understand and deal with in an emotionally relatively normal way. And this is something that her husband has just figured out ways around instead of addressing it firsthand. So much so that he leaves because he knows what's coming. Oh my god. Unless Kelly surrounds herself with people that are also enablers, she's not going to have much of a social life the further this goes on. But at the same time, the fact that no one noticed until OP and the husband pointed it out is also crazy. Do these people just live in an alternate reality themselves? I don't know about all that, Chief, but still not the asshole, okay, OP? Good job. Am I the asshole for telling my wife that I'm not going to sacrifice my hobbies just so that I can babysit? My wife Jane, 34 female, and I, 38 male, have been together for 5 years. She also brought my stepdaughter Emily, 9 female, into our marriage. We have her for 4 days a week, Monday to Thursday, while she's at her dad's Friday to Sunday. From the beginning, Jane told me that Emily doesn't need a second father figure as she has her dad to fill that role. I was only supposed to be a trusted authority figure in case she ever needed anything. I don't mind and try my best to respect that boundary. She's a sweet child anyway and doesn't cause any trouble, so it's not like I have to discipline her. Her father is also a good dad. Emily's dad recently got married, and his wife has 2 kids of her own who are at their place Wednesday to Saturday and at their dad's Sunday to Tuesday. Emily and her new step-siblings don't get along at all. They are always fighting, and it's pretty toxic. Emily's dad asked Jane if they could change their custody schedule to match his stepkids to keep the children apart. It's not a big deal in and of itself because we don't live far from each other, so picking and dropping is no issue, and she can easily be dropped off to school no matter where she stays. The issue is my wife agreed to it without consulting me. Jane is currently doing a certification course for the next 12 months, and they have classes on Saturdays from 9 to 5. She asked me if I can babysit Emily on Saturdays, but I can't because I play golf with my brother and sister on Saturday mornings from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. This has been our tradition from before Jane and Emily came into our life, and I have told Jane from much before that this is important to me and my siblings. She asked if I can move to another day, but that's not possible either, because my siblings also have jobs and families of their own, so Saturday was the best day for us. I told her she can hire a babysitter, but she doesn't want to spend money when I can do it for free. I told her that wouldn't work for me. She then got mad and said that golf is stupid and I should put my stepdaughter over my siblings. That pissed me off, so I told her that I'm not going to sacrifice my hobbies just so that she can have a free babysitter. For the record, I don't have anything against Emily. I've babysat her before and she's a good kid. If there was a family emergency, or if it was an occasional occurrence, then yeah, I would cancel golf for that day to take care of her. But I can't give up something this important to me for 12 months continuous. She called me a selfish asshole and slept on the couch last night. So am I the asshole here? In the comments, Mountain Score 2402 says, not the asshole. It sounds like this is something that should have been worked out more carefully as a family before agreeing to. Is it possible that the dad and stepmom change their kids' schedule as well? That way they have her when Jane is busy with certification courses. Info: is there a kids class or something like that when you go golfing? Could you help integrate the two if a schedule change is not possible? OP says, there isn't, and even if there is, it would likely still have to be paid for. My wife doesn't want money to be spent to take care of Emily. She just wants me to do it for free. Info: why doesn't your wife want to spend money on Emily? OP says, she's a bit of a miser. She doesn't like spending money unless she has no other option. Well, it sounds like she has no other option. Her request was not reasonable. She could have refused to switch with her ex-husband, or she could have accepted only if he paid for the babysitting on Saturday, and she should have discussed it with OP anyway. She's totally at fault here. You're definitely not the asshole. You said in another comment that you have the money to pay for babysitting, but your wife just doesn't want to spend it. Your wife is refusing to compromise at all. Your wife doesn't want you to be a parent, but she's also affording you less respect than a babysitter. You are getting the worst of both worlds. Even a babysitter is allowed to say, sorry, I can't work on that particular day. It's really unfair of her to just demand that you have the responsibilities of a parent, have to put the child first, but are not allowed to act like a parent. I was ready to say everyone sucks here, and I'm still soft learning that way, because stepkids are still your kids, and you don't babysit your own kids. But the wife doesn't want him to be a father figure, so where does that leave him? Being walked over, apparently. Another commenter says, everyone sucks here. If this was the biological child, everyone would be calling him the asshole. It's just a damn shame that stepkids are treated this way. I understand there was an agreement, but he did say he would be a trusted authority figure if she ever needed anything. OP replies, look, I don't disagree that kids should be treated well by their step-parents, but at the end of the day, it was Jane who set the ground rules on our relationship. Whenever I tried to play the role of a step-parent and influence any decisions regarding Emily, she would shut me down. I have to respect her boundaries. At the same time, I don't think it's right for her to unilaterally change the rules now that it's convenient for her. I suggested a babysitter, but she doesn't want to do that. I don't think it's right to get to pick and choose when I'm supposed to be a parent and when I'm not. I also have an emotional investment. Not the asshole, but I don't get how people expect to date someone with a child and just be totally removed. It's callous thinking. I get not being the primary go-to person, but in all these stories, it's so dumb to not expect to fill some parental duties when dating someone with a child. That child is a central part of the person that you are dating. You can't just compartmentalize that or treat the child like a chore that the bio parent is solely responsible for. I feel like if you choose to date someone with kids at some point, you will get stuck doing some childcare duties, and it shouldn't be such a big deal that you do. Again, it's kind of heartless to date someone with kids, but then treat them as a separate entity entirely that you have zero concern for. Basically, people need to stop dating others that have kids if they aren't ready to some extent, even small, to integrate that child into their life. The only excuse is if the child is a full-grown adult, it doesn't matter. But again, a little heartless and naive to think that if your partner has a young kid, that you'll never be relied on somehow for rides, care, or some management. OP replies, I get what you're saying, but my wife was the one who wanted things to be this way. I was prepared to be a parental figure, but my wife explicitly told me on more than one occasion that I was not supposed to play that role. Whenever I've tried to say or do something that I felt was best for Emily, Jane would tell me that it's not my responsibility and to not get involved. If she wants me to be a parent now, then she has to want me to be a parent all the time. I'm not a parent on demand who can just turn a switch. I don't think that it's fair to either Emily or me. I'm her stepdad only on paper. I have zero authority or input into how my stepdaughter is raised. Whenever I've tried to influence my wife's decisions on Emily, it was shut down. Why don't you pay for a babysitter if it matters to you so much? We do share finances, but it's still her responsibility to figure it out for Emily. Why is it my duty to figure out a solution? Why am I the only adult who's supposed to make a sacrifice? You know what? Now that you've said all that, OP, I feel like it's fairly obvious who is in the wrong here. I don't really support misers, that's for sure. I don't think you should sacrifice your hobbies. With all this extra detail that you have provided, it seems as though she should not be the ones making sacrifices for her biological kid, yet you should be expected to make sacrifices in every way, but never get any of the perks that comes with being that guy. At this point, I wonder why you're even in a relationship with her anymore. Like, is this not a hill to die on? Is this not a straw that breaks the camel's back? I feel like you're being disrespected in this relationship, and I think a serious sit-down and come-to-God moment is needed. Because you can't just keep sacrificing yourself in all of these different ways and then be disrespected over and over and over again. There has to be a breaking point, surely. So yeah, my vote is absolutely not the asshole. What's her problem? And now, on to the updates. I want to say thank you to everyone for your kind words and voices of support. Emily deserves to feel cared for and not like a hot potato that no one wants. I spoke to my brother and his wife, and they've offered to let Emily stay at their home on Saturday morning with their other children so that we can golf. My wife has also agreed, albeit reluctantly, to this arrangement. I have also told her that this arrangement isn't tenable anymore. If she expects me to have parental responsibilities towards Emily, then she needs to treat me like another parent of her daughter. We are going to family counseling to see how we can make this work. In the comments, DragonKelt25 says, honestly, for the kiddo, what is the point of Saturday being mum custody time if mum isn't even there? Why is the dad okay with that? Why is that not a daddy-daughter day so they're out of the house while the stepmom's kiddos are there? The mum seems okay with it being a stepdaughter's stepdad day. Why not just remove the step and her be with her dad? It seems like a lot of parents view custody time not as, during my time, I get to spend it with my kid, but rather, during your time, I don't have to deal with the kid. Either that, or I'm just taking this time so you don't get to have her. I know one of my parents did that. Grim. That's so grim. Just unloading some childhood trauma, huh? Yeah, OP's wife is the real asshole here. You can't tell your partner, you're not my kid's parent, and then expect him to act like a parent when you need him to. Right? She's been saying, basically, you're just a babysitter, and then got mad when he said, you should have asked first. This babysitter doesn't do weekends. And even worse, she got mad at the idea of needing to find another sitter. That strikes me as the dumbest part, because that's what you do when both parents already have plans. You get a sitter if available, and you only cancel when you need to. I'm astonished that she was even still not happy about Emily going to OP's brother's house and staying with his wife and kids while they go play golf. What on earth is objectionable about that? Presumably, OP's brother isn't charging them, Emily is not left unattended, OP gets to play golf with his siblings, and Jane gets to go to her classes. Every need is met. What is wrong with Jane? I can't help wondering if she has control issues. You can give an old miser everything that she asked for, you can find perfect solutions to problems that she causes, and she can still be unhappy about it. Welcome to some people. I don't have a name or a label for said people, but there's nothing you can do to make them happy. They're always gonna find an issue. And again, I ask, OP, what is in it for you? What does Jane provide to your life? I know that's a real black and white kind of, oh, you've never been married before, Markee, you don't know what you're talking about. I completely take that on board. I want to know what he sees in Jane that he continues to put up with this behavior. I would hope that this is something that they worked out in counseling together, or they worked out in private, and he's like, what's going on? I love you, but you're breaking my balls here, man. I want to know where Jane is coming from, that she's still not happy about this arrangement. Does she just want OP never to have fun? Does she want OP not to have plans outside of their house? Does she see him being happy on a Saturday and think, I need to shut that shit down? Why stay with someone that is so intent on sabotaging your happiness? Make it make sense. Our next post is by user Otherwise Tomorrow 283, titled, Divorcing over a tattoo. My wife of 4 years got a tattoo recently with her best friend, who has a very aggressive type of bone cancer. She didn't discuss it with me at all, just did it while I was on a training mission. Came home Monday morning to her with his name tatted on her neck with a Pokemon. I have not returned home since I saw it. I've been sleeping in the barracks. I'm honestly thinking about just filing for divorce. Am I wrong? Edit. I've heard from a few of my neighbors that she basically moved him in for the 6 weeks that I was away on a training mission and left a few days before I returned. She's refusing to even discuss it. All she keeps saying is that it has nothing to do with me and her. OP added in the comments, spoke to my CO about it. He said I should just let Jag handle the paperwork and he will have me a new duty station by Monday. He said a man can't live with that level of disrespect, and I agree with him. In the comments, Nicolette Dairy says, what did you say to her when you first saw it, and how did she react to you? OP replies, I asked her what she did, and she said I got a Pokemon tattoo, and showed me. I saw his name on her neck, and I just went quiet and picked up my bags and walked back on base. Went and saw my CO and had a drink with him. If my partner put any other name on his body than my kids, his family, or me, it's a problem. They could have done a tattoo without a name on a place that isn't so out in the open. The tattoo itself isn't an issue, but the name and place is. OP replies, exactly. It hurts that she turned me down last year about getting matching tattoos to just get one with her Pokemon Go buddy. But it's not the tattoo, it's the complete disrespect and disregard that it's a constant symbol of. As much as I'd like to say you're wrong, name and neck are kind of effed. Nah. Really effed up. Completely agree. Somewhere else, sure, I guess, but on the neck? Talk about disrespectful to him. As a heavily tattooed woman with a husband who is not, I don't fault you in the least. My best guy friend and I got tattooed 2 days ago. We've been friends for 32 years. My husband knows that I'd never get anything on my hands, neck, or face, but has asked me to not get any on my thighs. He finds thigh tattoos on women a turn-off. Fair enough, and I totally respect that. He's never asked me to not get another dude's name permanently inked onto my body because he doesn't need to. In what effing universe would a spouse be okay with that? When I was scrolling along and saw the title of this post, I thought, what kind of misogynistic bullshit do we have here? Dude, get away from that crazy witch as fast as you can. Footnote, a reputable tattoo artist would never agree to do a neck tattoo as someone's first. I completely agree. My guy BFF died while I was married. I got a tribute tattoo the year after. It was of the characters' nicknames that we called each other, Eeyore and Tigger. I'd never get someone's name tattooed on me besides my child or parents. Still have neither of those though. The fact that she got her friend's name on him before he has died, even though he has aggressive cancer, he may not die, and on her neck, is a huge red flag. I also agree that a reputable tattooist wouldn't do a neck tattoo for a first tattoo either. Wait, her first tattoo? No, sir. I mean, even if it wasn't, she'd be in the wrong 10,000%, but damn, her first was of another guy's name? Yeah, and Dopey stated in a comment that he asked her to get matching tattoos with him, her husband, in the past, and she turned him down. Yeah, I don't think that this is a grey area situation. To me, this is a pretty black and white, open shut kind of case here. That's a horrendous amount of disrespect. I understand that she's not in her right mind, that she's dealing with the loss of someone that she cares about, but she's got to see that having this guy moved in for 6 weeks, secretly in and out of the house, not telling your husband about it, refusing to get a tattoo with the husband, but getting a tattoo with this guy and not telling your husband at all. There's so many just Jenga blocks being put up here. Does she expect OP to just not see this Jenga tower and smack it down with a swiftness? The only explanation is that she's in a psychotic episode and she's experiencing a reality that we're not experiencing, where it's opposite day every day. I refuse to believe that someone is this hell-bent on being crazy, but, you know, we've seen weirder. We have seen weirder. Not the asshole OP. Back up to the post, we have a mini update. She was served divorce papers yesterday at our previous home together. She thought that it would be a good idea to involve both our families without giving them a reason or context. Just that I filed for divorce after I got home from my last training mission. So, as the parents called, I told them about the tattoo and her moving him in while I was gone, and let them deal with her. And now, on to the updates. So I got all my ducks in a row, as they say. Sat down and spoke with my future ex-wife. She honestly expects me to just step aside and let her play house with her friends. Pause our marriage, wait till they are done, then continue our life together like nothing happened. I can't live with her plan, so we're getting divorced. Wasted nearly 6 years on her already, not wasting any more of my life on her. We'll be in my new duty station by the end of June. A fresh start, I hope, and put all of this behind me. In the comments, Inside Initiative 810 says, "Good for you. You deserve someone who will love and respect you. What did her family say when they found out about all this? I can't see them being happy about her torpedoing her career and marriage over a Pokemon tattoo and the nerd that came along with it." OP says, "No, they are not at all pleased. At first, her parents came at me because all she told them was that I left her out of the blue after returning from a training mission. I told the truth about how she got a neck tattoo with her friend's name and had him living in our house while I was on my training mission. Good for you, OP. Move on. You will definitely find someone who values you and the relationship." OP replies, "I just don't get it. She let some guy she met at a Pokemon card game tournament a few years ago set her whole life on fire. So she admitted she was cheating?" OP says, "No. She's dancing around those questions, but her theatrics tell me what I needed to know. Many times a non-answer is the answer." OP says, "She and her girlfriends have been blowing up my phone. They at least have changed tactics. Some of them are trying to act like my friends I thought they were, and how I'm taking this the wrong way. and how I'm the one letting this affect my marriage. Really, my wife hasn't slept with me in 4 months, but it's not affecting my marriage. Sorry, I ranted a little. It just pisses me off. OP, I saw in one of your comments that your wife has been trying to reconcile. What has she been telling you to try to get you from stopping the divorce? OP says, she's been endlessly trying to just communicate with me. After she failed to contact me personally, she went to our parents and siblings, and when that failed, she started contacting friends and people in my unit, spouses of people in my unit. She is absolutely relentless, and it's always the same bullshit about how this is just temporary because he is not long for this earth. And I would do the same thing for a terminally sick friend. I'm glad that you're standing your ground. You have made all the right decisions and taken all the correct action. OP replies, I was hopeful she would realize it was over and just let me leave. But no, she wants to drag this out and inflict the maximum amount of damage on everyone involved. And now, on to the final update. My wife destroyed every part of our life together. Trigger warning here, big trigger warning for someone unaliving themselves, so if you don't want to hear that, don't continue listening. This morning, my commanding officer pulled me from a training flight to inform me of my wife's death, and got me on a flight back to North Carolina. Should arrive at my parents' house in about 8 hours. A month ago, I filed for divorce and changed duty stations and cut her completely out of my life. I didn't want to hear how this thing with her friend James was temporary and how our marriage would go back to normal after he passed. I am not suicidal or anything like that, but I am profoundly saddened. I kept thinking about how 6 months ago we were happy and in love, and now she took her own life when I just didn't accept what she was doing for a friend who was dying from cancer. I am riddled with self-doubt and blaming myself for her actions. Just thinking about everything, and the fact that our parents had been friends for decades, that is now dead in the water. Another victim of her delusion. I know these were all her choices, but I still feel guilty for her death. I don't know if hell is real or not, but I hope that James ends up there for what he has caused. Update. Had a meeting with the funeral home today. She already set most everything up and paid for it a little over a week ago. We are having a memorial service at my in-laws' house on Wednesday. Her ashes will need to be picked up in a few days. I have a grief counseling session on Friday morning. In the comments, Kid Chaos 97 says, honestly, my guy, you should see a therapist. Nothing wrong with it, and it can help sort out your feelings, but seeking help from a professional is the right way to go. OP says, it's mandatory these days. They haven't said it yet, but I know it's coming. It's not a bad thing. Try to be open to it. Therapy can help you process these things in a healthy manner. You can get through this. OP replies, I never in a million years could think that she would off herself. I just wish that I knew the cause of all of this. Blindsided is an understatement. My dad lost his dad to it when he was young. He told me this and it stuck with me ever since. He didn't leave a note. I'll never know why he did it. Sometimes you'll never know why, and you have to be okay with that and move on. My dad offed himself 3 years ago, and I remember asking the cops if he left me a note. I just wanted something from him to help understand this. He actually did leave a note. It said to pick up his dog from the neighbors. A downvoted commenter says, wait a second. She was taking care of a friend with cancer and you lost your shit over it, causing a divorce, and that plunged her probably into a depression and she took her life. Sounds like you were the problem here, not so much her. OP says, not exactly. She hit the pause button on our marriage so that she could play house with him while I was on a training mission in California, without informing me. Was pregnant with his child when I came back and wasn't going to tell me. If it wasn't for the stupid tattoo that she got with his name, I might have fallen for it and slept with her, and she would have had me raise his child as my own. Oh, what a jerk. I'm so sorry. Now I think your wife offed herself to join him in the other life. Probably both went to hell for their selfishness. OP says, I'm not sure if he has passed or not. Pretty much left and crawled under a rock for the last few weeks. I was wondering if James was still alive. Did you say how your wife? How do I ask this without sounding rude? did that to herself. And OP says, found out she wrote 10 letters to different people, including me. Then she emptied the medicine cabinet while her family was out. They came home, and she was in her bed and had passed away. What was the nature of her relationship with him? Was she giving him palliative care or having an affair with him? OP says he was still active, as in up and around hell as of last week. He was still working at the card shop, I was told. So we'll say an affair. Well, that was a very grim story, but I hope you're processing all of this well now, OP. I know the story wasn't posted too long ago, and if you hear this, I wish you nothing but the best in dealing with all of this. That cannot be easy at all. She was obviously dealing with her own demons, and she couldn't come to terms with the consequences of her actions. So, there were many other ways to deal with this situation, and she chose that one. I don't know if you can or can't fault her for that, and it really does suck that you can't exactly close that chapter of your life with her anymore and discuss it further, but I don't think there was an opportunity for you two to talk about it anyway. I feel like you made your intentions and actions very well known. From here, I really just wish you the best of luck. I hope that nothing but good things happen to you in the future, OP, and I really do thank you for sharing this story with us. That must have been hard to ride out all of that.
Am I the asshole for not forgiving my mum for destroying our family? When I was 14, my mum came out as gay and left my dad. He was heartbroken, but explained that nobody did anything wrong in the situation. I resented my mum and refused to do anything with her. My mum asked how she can make the situation better, and I told her that she couldn't. I refused to answer her calls and texts. When it was time for my high school graduation, my mum asked for an invite, and I told her Lacey, my dad's new girlfriend, got it. She left a voicemail, sobbing, saying none of this is her fault. Now last week was my college graduation, and because it's at a stadium, there were no tickets. So somehow my mum found me and had the audacity to show up with her girlfriend. My mum tried to hug me, but I pulled away. Her heart sank, and I saw tears in her eyes. She said she's sorry, and I told her that this isn't the time or place and that she's ruining my day. She asked if we could talk, so I set up a time and place. So I went to meet up with her, and she told me that she couldn't change herself and that she was just born this way. She asked how can I hate her for being gay. I told her that I'm an ally and support the LGBTQ, and I explained that I go to Pride every year with my little brother. I asked if she thought that's why I was mad. She shook her head yes. I explained the reason I'm so upset is because she was born this way, which meant that she knew way before she met Dad, her final year of college, that she was gay. I explained that she knew that Dad was madly in love with her, and instead of turning him down when he first pursued her, she led him on knowing she wasn't ever going to love him in a romantic sense. Then, on top of not leaving Dad early on in the relationship, she got married to him and had 3 kids. She kept creating scenarios that would hurt more and more people as time went on. Our family is not against the LGBTQ, and everyone's accepting, so she wouldn't have been disowned or anything. I then asked if she knew she liked women, then why stay with Dad? She said because she knew he could provide a good life for her. I told her she's even more selfish than I thought. I left and actually blocked her. My little brother told me that she was hysterical over the phone. I don't care, but now she's coming by my house asking to speak. My dad keeps telling her to go away. I heard that she's broken up with her girlfriend, who messaged me on Facebook asking if I can forgive my mother, because that's the only way they'll get back together. Am I the asshole? In the comments, Divine Tarot says, and this is why I, as a gay man, think you're not the asshole. Quote, I then asked if she knew that she liked women, why stay with Dad? She said because she knew he could provide her a good life. I told her she's even more selfish than I thought. I left and actually blocked her. Make no mistake, there are scenarios where people either don't know or didn't have the lateral mobility socially or economically to make the out and proud choice. To such people, specifically the former, I have a fair amount of sympathy, but in all situations, it creates a scenario where a lot of people are liable to get hurt when the individual eventually comes out. In your mother's case, she knowingly created this scenario, And in this regard, she doesn't deserve much, if any, sympathy. She doesn't deserve sympathy just because she learned to cloak herself in the colors of the beleaguered member of the community who wants to be out and proud, if only that darn society we live in would allow her. The day is fast approaching where it isn't even that viable of an excuse to say, "I didn't know." But it's already here in many contexts where saying you didn't have a choice just doesn't fly. Your mother hurt a lot of people because she wanted financial support and wasn't fiscally ready to live her out and proud lifestyle. She used your father through and through and then had 3 kids who stood to suffer when she shattered the foundation of the family that she forged. She is not deserving of any excess of sympathy just because women in the past, who were not her, didn't have the options that she absolutely did have. She chose to hurt people for her benefit, and maybe it was out of obliviousness and ignorance that she did, but she still harmed people. In my mind, your mother has simply not earned the right to ask for forgiveness, because she has yet to really grasp and take accountability. She isn't sorry for the harm that she committed, because in her words, she perceives that the expectation is running counter to her living her truth. Garborge says, "Not the asshole. The more you seem to communicate with her, the worse she seems to get. Using a man just because he can provide just so you can later turn around and walk away without even thinking about turning back before it's too late means that she's a massive asshole. You're better off without her in your life. She's not a mother if she doesn't put her family and kids first." Not the asshole here. She thought that you were mad at her because you were homophobic. She never actually asked, she just assumed. You're right to be mad at her. She lied and led your dad on for years, knowing about what she wanted. She wanted to use people for her own benefit without a care of how it affects them. Sometimes you just have to cut people out. I can't make any clearer points than you've already made. Sounds like she knew pretty early on and chose to use someone. That's unacceptable. And her relationship with her new girlfriend and significant other isn't any of your business. Yeah, I could have seen arguments for this one if she wasn't completely sure of her sexuality early on. If it's one of those cases where it's like you're a closeted bisexual or a closeted homosexual that later on only could then be comfortable coming out and, unfortunately damaging a family that they still loved and that they had no intention of hurting. But this situation is pretty cut and dry if OP is a reliable narrator. She's just openly admitting to using the father for financial stability. That's pretty wild. Yeah, I didn't actually love him. I just, was with him and married him for a long time and had 3 kids with him. But now that I've got the financial stability and social rapport that I've built over all these years, I'm out. Bye. I don't know about all that, Chief. I feel like it's a pretty bad way to end things with your family. Much like on my live stream the other day, where the guy used his girlfriend who cheated on him 5 years ago as a placeholder girlfriend, this woman was using OP's father as a placeholder husband. That's simply something that, in my opinion, is never going to be acceptable, and she did destroy her family. I think OP has every right to feel the way they did, so not the asshole for not forgiving your mom, OP. And now, onto the updates. So I talked to my mum again, but before we met, I unblocked her to ask if she can get her girlfriend, Lisa, to leave me alone. During our meetup, she explained that Lisa was a part of her and Dad's friend circle, and they'd actually been secretly dating since my mum's bachelorette trip 16 years ago. I asked if Dad knows, and she said no, and he thinks they started dating a year after the divorce. Throw her in the bin, that's it. I'm done with you, OP's mum. You're terrible! No. In the bin. You're going in the bin. Cheating the whole time too. Get rid of yourself. I got up to leave, and she begged me to stay and talk for 10 minutes. I agreed, and she said she and Lisa are over if that meant that she gets her kids back. You don't get it, do you? She cursed Lisa out for texting me and told Lisa that she's ruining a chance to build a relationship with us. It turns out that Lisa bombarded my little brother with texts to spend time with his mum. Lisa also stalked my older sister when she was at the park with her kids. She begged for me to give her another chance. At this point, OP, just tell her to get back together with Lisa, and they can have their happily ever after in the psych ward together. I just looked at her and laughed. I explained that it gets worse every time she talks to me. I told her she was scum, and she was better off never telling me about the cheating. I told her to never call or text me again because I already have a mother who has been there for me. My siblings and I haven't heard anything from my mum in a week, and although we're on bad terms, I hope she's okay. In the comments, Collateral Estadal says, "This story is just really sad. What does your dad think?" OP says, "After he remarried, I truly believe that he doesn't give my mum a second thought. I'm not going to tell him about the cheating. His depression for the first couple of years was the worst thing I've seen someone go through, and I don't want to do or say anything that could potentially allow that to happen again." It seems like there's new secrets every time OP talks to their mum. The mum's trickle-truthing is making it impossible for anyone to move on. And mum and her girlfriend said that they're broken up until OP forgives mum and embraced the mum's living a lie during her marriage. I think that tall tale about them being broken up is a ploy to get OP to accept mum. They should try a different lie. It makes no difference. The trickle-truthing is bad, but it doesn't matter. The initial story is enough. Each other layer might make it worse, but it started off with selfishness and betrayal. Weird to say, but I think the only time it could have possibly been justifiable not to tell someone about cheating is when they A, have a clean bill of health, and B, have already broken up and moved on to a healthier relationship. At that point, they've already made the right choice, and all it will do is destroy them emotionally. Also, if the cheating spouse has died a terrible and horrific death, and the betrayed person is still in mourning, no effing way am I going to make things worse and tell them that they are mourning a lie. Yeah, it's another situation which would be insane to tell them about that. It's like, hey, I know you've mourned the loss of this person that has died horrifically and you love them all your life. But why are you mourning? They actually cheated on you for 16 years. You shouldn't be mourning at all right now. I can't imagine being in that person's shoes in a situation like that, being like, oh my god, my life is a lie. Everything I've built is a lie. Yeah, you warn someone so they can make an informed decision about staying in the relationship. Though getting an STI panel, if it was recent and the two people in the relationship weren't using condoms, might be a factor. OP explains her reasoning for never forgiving her mum as well. The fact that she knew from the start that she was only attracted to women and still chose to build a family with her ex-husband only because he could provide a good life for her is downright disgusting, on top of cheating on him for well over a decade with someone her husband considered a friend. Every explanation that just came out of her mouth was just, it's almost comical. What's pissing me off here is that some commenters are insisting that this is only about the mum being gay. If we believe the OP, that had nothing to do with it. Had his mum been straight and the affair partner a man, he would have likely felt exactly the same way. They refuse to see this and reject contrary evidence by calling him a passenger. That's a new one, a passenger. Then they make the pitiful excuse that, well, it was hard to be out back then. Yes, it was, and it still is, but this is not the 1950s. It was the early aughts. Plenty of people were out and living their lives. Jeez Louise. The number of people willing to excuse a woman who made a child to use as a prop in her double life, who deceived another into loving her so she could live off the labor of another human being. Yeah, she's going to hell for that one. You didn't need to keep talking. You didn't need to bring your craziness with Lisa to the spotlight, yet you did, OP's mother. I stand by my comments. You and her need to just run away to another country, maybe some little island off in the middle of nowhere, and enjoy your time together for the rest of your life, because did you have a mental snap? Is there some reason that saying, actually I was cheating on your dad for 16 years with this woman that's still around that I'm not actually broken up with, but I'm telling you I'm broken up with until you forgive me? What part of that did you think, yeah, this is sane. This is a good idea to share this information because I've been sitting on it for so long that it's so normalized to me. What in God's name? Who are you? What alien planet did you land in from that
That's something that's just cool and justifiable. I actually can't. OP, give this one a few years of no contact so that you can have a normal life for once, I would think. Our next post is by user istvan82, titled, "Am I the asshole for explaining my pizza to joy ratio to a friend who was trying to justify buying a vintage car?" Odd name, but I'll explain. A few years back, I came up with a simple math formula I use whenever I'm going to make a dumb purchase. When you come home from work, making a filling meal from scratch will, on average, take about an hour. A takeout pizza costs around $20. So having that pizza instead of cooking and getting to relax instead means an hour of enjoyment costs you about $20. So before I buy anything, I sit down and think if I'm going to get a number of hours of joy equal to the price divided by 20 out of this item. This is only for non-necessity purchases, obviously, because applying it to hot dogs or something would create a number of serious questions that I don't want answers to. Here's the argument that I got pulled into and asked for my opinion. My friend has been arguing with his wife, and he kept talking about how happy it'll make him. They can in fact afford it, and I did seriously say that if he thought that he would get that number of hours out of it, he should go for it. I actually think with how hard he works, he does deserve it, and said that part out loud. He tried to call me out as being a hypocrite because about a year ago, I spent about $1,200 on a Ghostbusters costume, proton pack, boots, and all. I had to point out to him that I in fact throw that costume on frequently for a couple of hours at a time. It brings me great joy when I do, and that the proton pack is hanging across from my bed, so I can look at it before I fall asleep. It was something that I've wanted for nearly 40 years, and I'm not going to stop getting joy from it, even if I'm over the $20 an hour limit. But his wife now uses the pizza to joy ratio for everything, and she says it's helped her cut down on spending money on things that she might only use once, or just think that are neat, like anime figurines or video games she's just going to let sit in her Steam library and probably never play. My friend's called me an asshole since now whenever he's looking at getting something, she'll ask, "How many pizzas is that?" I honestly think that she's taking it too far, but she said it's life-changing for her. I kind of think that I'm the asshole because it's supposed to be just something like offhand advice for silly things, like a banana costume, not applied to things like a washer and dryer upgrade. In the comments, RoofLife1 says, "And I'm not sure the pizza to joy ratio is technically financial advice. It's not actually clear here how it was conveyed, and I've worked in finance for years and have never heard of it. Not the asshole." OP says, "It could be how I conveyed it, yeah. If my piss-poor memory is right, I think I said, before I make any purchase, I ask if I have the money to buy it, in excess to monthly expenses, putting aside for emergencies and old age, and if there is any money left over, then I explain the pizza to joy ratio, and if I think I'll get more hours out of it than that, it's worth the purchase because the hours of joy you get out of one thing can keep you from buying another thing when you didn't need to. I'm somewhere on the autistic spectrum, so sometimes I say things that make perfect sense to me, and it just doesn't sound like that to other people. I feel exactly the same way sometimes, like, I say something to people and I'm like, that made perfect sense. I'm speaking in clear English. And to others that I'm trying to get these ideas across to, it's like I'm speaking Spanish or something like that. Is that normal? Is that a normal feeling, guys? OP continues, "Oh yeah, it's nothing serious. It's just a very general guideline for the sake of not going insane because you feel deprived of fun things." Pleasant Koala says, "My granddad had something similar that he'd call the inconvenience tax, but it was more for practical things than fun purchases. It's a perfectly reasonable way to consider spending disposable income while maintaining some sort of spending limits." OP says, "Yeah, that's the big thing. I budget like crazy, so at the end of the month I have like $100 free. I get stuff I really like, and I guess people notice that I'm not spending it on stuff I've forgotten about in a week or two. Or I buy takeout for my fiance, because sometimes she has a bad day, and it's worth ignoring my rule for her to feel better. Ironically, it's never pizza." Your friend's wife seems to be taking it that deep, that's what she said, and that's what's causing trouble for your friends. Have you told your friend's wife that she misunderstood your pizza philosophy? OP says, "He has, but I think it might be a bit deeper than that." She grew up a bit cash insecure, and she has a lot of bad spending habits that she got under control. I'm going to talk to him tomorrow night and see if we can come up with a way to explain to her it's not supposed to be used on needed. Sure, her not spending $120 a week on anime figurines that she'll put in the closet is a good idea, but she should only apply it to things like that, not quality of life expenditures. Yeah, for a quality of life expense, you wouldn't be measuring joy, but rather how necessary it is, which is harder to quantify in a meaningful way. OP says, yeah, like how the washer and dryer they've been thinking of getting would be a massive quality of life upgrade from the ones that were in their house when they moved in, and likely saw the first Bush administration. Right now she's gone from comparison shopping to, but they work when they barely work. That's poverty math, not being cost efficient. Yeah, I do think that she's going into poverty math for this one and is taking this one overboard, and maybe she gets something out of being controlling with her husband here, like she finally has a grasp on the finances and is doing the Mr. Krabs money dance, like, oh my god, look how much money I'm saving, and I can justify it. Isn't that crazy? This is a rule that fits everything in my life and definitely isn't going overboard. Look, I'm all for neuron activation, but when it's at the detriment of your partner, I really think you need to pull that sucker back in, you know? To me, this is very much in excess with this woman, and she's doing the wrong thing here. I don't think you're the asshole for explaining the pizza to joy ratio to a friend, but I think it's gone out of control a little bit, OP, and I think you need to help step in and pull this back in because you're the one that started it, I would think. And now, on to the updates. I had caused a bit of strife with my friend after giving them some very basic, silly math I do before I buy anything that is not a necessity. His wife then began applying it to absolutely everything, and while she wasn't exactly manic about it, she was definitely taking it too far. My friend asked me to sit down with him and talk to his wife with him because I've been friends with them for 10 years or so, and he wanted me to explain things a bit better since I have trouble with words from time to time. Well, here's the deal. She's pregnant, which I guess I found out when he did. She is very nervous about finances since she grew up like he and I did. Poor as dirt, but didn't want to tell anyone since it's still in the first 2 months and she's worried about things like a miscarriage. The long and short of it is she was stressed by the idea of being out of work for months after giving birth and was worried that if he bought the car, it would eat into his savings, which they would be heavily reliant on for a bit. Instead of going, "You should have told me," my friend and I got on the same page and he said, "I'm very sorry for making you worry about that. I can always buy the car later on when we know that it's okay to do it. For now, you take priority." I told her, "I'm very sorry that I put a brainworm in you that played into your fears while also doing something that exacerbated your anxiety. Pizza math goes directly out the window when a baby is involved." Instead of trying to reinforce that, she took it too seriously, since I really didn't feel like trying to defend myself was going to do anything but make her feel more anxious. So, I ordered all of us Chinese, and we sat and talked about what their finances look like, and even though right now they can afford a baby and the car without issue, they're both high earners, he agreed to wait 5 years and buy it as his midlife crisis car. That's about all. She's feeling way better. We had a small celebration since she's still nervous about getting too excited about it, and I also apologized for putting her in a position where she had to admit that before she was ready. All in all, everyone is in a better place, I think. In the comments, Misanthropic says, "To be honest, his 'how many hours of joy will this bring me' rule is fantastic for non-necessities. I used to do that at 17 when my job paid $6.50 an hour. I'd ask myself, is this worth an hour of being yelled at the prices in the computer didn't match the tag? I tended to say yes for Panera broccoli cheddar bread balls and random shit at Target, which I regret now." Okay, but to be fair, Panera broccoli cheddar bread balls are bangin'. That's a tongue twister. Please try saying that 10 times because I just did, because I couldn't say that goddamn sentence. What the hell is a Panera? We don't have that here. This math helps with some non-glamorous things too though. My house was really cold. Unsexy insulation would help it be warmer, but that seemed like a bit of a waste. But then I did my own pizza math and realized I would be happier every hour the floor wasn't freezing. Way more than a new car or designer watch or anything else non-essential. How did you ever get yourself to the opinion that insulation could ever seem like a waste in the first place? I get it. I kinda resent spending money on stuff that isn't fun or that I don't care about that much. Car repairs, for example, and it can feel like a waste of money even if it's actually essential. I took, high school economics, and this is how they explained customer desire, if you will. Basically, as a customer, you exchange money for goods and services, right? So if you want to buy something, you have to weigh the cost against the amount of satisfaction that you get out of it. It was taught in the context of make the good and service worth the customer's time, but it's still a sound financial strategy. Opportunity cost is really one of the most versatile and useful basic economic concepts out there. I always like to throw in a, if I don't use my money on this, what would I do with it instead, reflection on top of my, is it good value for my money analysis. And all I say is, ooh, notification come up for McDonald's. I'm gonna go buy that. My conceptual analysis of basic economic concepts is way overblown, and I feel like one day I'm gonna end up on that goddamn TikTok show where the guy goes through your finances and he's like, what the hell's wrong with you? You leased out a $100,000 car with like a $10,000 deposit? Do you know what the monthly repayments on this thing are like? And I'll be like, yeah, man, I did the pizza to joy ratio for this one. You can't yuck my yum for that? Come on, man. A souped up mega truck? That's so much pizza to joy ratio in my brain. Anyway, I really like how this story ended. I really liked that she was open and honest about the pregnancy being the underlying issue here as to why she was so stressed. But again, it highlights the fact that we need to talk to each other. We need to have more transparent communication because she could have been mentioning this to her husband way earlier on to avoid these fights instead of scapegoating the pizza to joy ratio as being something that she believes in wholeheartedly. Like, how did the husband only find out that she's pregnant 2 months in? I don't know how no one else mentioned that in the comments, but maybe I just missed those, but that's not good. Why are you not telling your husband that you're pregnant for 2 months? Why does he have to find out when you have a big argument and fight that seems like it was your friend's fault for happening, but really you're the one withholding information from your husband? What's going on there? I don't understand. People need help. Anyway, guys, let's end the episode, huh? Am I the asshole here because I called my psycho ex's unrelated child my Norda? Buckle up. 15 years ago, I was 25 and was finishing my contract, and my then girlfriend of 3 years, Natalie, was acting increasingly strange. I came back from a 2-month assignment and was prepared to break up with Natalie. She came by and gave me the good news that she was pregnant. I asked how far along she was, and she said 5 weeks. So I broke it off with her and told her that she needed to do better at math. She refused the breakup and insisted that the baby was mine. So I told her the following. 1, paternity test, and 2, if the child was mine, we can talk about financial support and custody agreements with lawyers. She refused both and told everyone that we both knew that I was a deadbeat for knocking her up and leaving her. I told everyone that I was on a 2-month assignment when she was conceived, but a few insisted for the sake of decency that I house her and give her limited support. How about for the sake of decency, those guys do that instead of you, OP? That sounds pretty cool to me. I consulted a lawyer about this mess, and the lawyer made it very, very clear that any overt support that I give could be seen as me taking responsibility. So I told these friends that, and most dropped it, except one guy. Who again insisted that charity couldn't be used as a legal cudgel like that. I told him that if he believes that, then he can house her. He agreed to drop it after that. Child was born, and not even gonna do the whole she didn't even look like me, because most babies are born with squished faces, and all I saw were the pictures she sent me with messages like, Emma wants to know where the daddy is and shit. She still refused to take any paternity tests, but her constantly showing up with that baby got to the point where I filed a restraining order. Fun fact, in my state, a permanent RO is not in fact permanent. It is 2 effing years long. The only way to get it longer is if there was a violent crime associated. and apparently bugging someone with a baby that's not theirs is not a violent crime. So my life for the last 14 years was me renewing the RO every 2 years, because once it clears, Natalie shows up again with my not child's. I did eventually find a nice girl, get married, and now I have a 9-year-old son, Henry. My wife Kim is well aware of Natalie and Emma. When the cycle begins again, I always say the same thing. 1. Paternity test. 2. Once paternity is proven, I will take custody and get financial support set up. Natalie always refuses and says that both are insulting. Recently, the cycle started again, and this time Emma showed up first. She approached my son during a school event, visit to the zoo, and said, "Hi, I'm your big sister Emma." Henry knows about stranger danger and ran away to a teacher. I had to have a very, very painful talk to the teachers and parents that were there at the event about my relationship with Emma and Natalie, and how Emma was never my daughter. I even called her my daughter once or twice in the conversation. After the group disbanded, one of the mothers confronted me and said that while Natalie was in the wrong, telling this poor child I was her father, calling her my daughter, was mocking this situation. I kind of get where she's coming from, just I can't help this child. And the honest truth is, making light of the 2-year cycles is the closest I can get to finding peace in the situation. Edit. To answer the repeated question, in my state, the mother has to start the petition for the father to be established and the test to start. There is no instance where a father can start the petition. There was a chance to do this when Emma was born, but the window was exactly 1 month, and I was much too focused on the RO, not thinking the paternity angle would bite me in the butt. One last time, to everyone saying just ask for custody, that'll force a DNA test, literally can't be done. Been through this enough with a lawyer and have consulted with other lawyers. There are laws protecting children, and a lot of them exist for good reason. I'll explain it the way that my lawyer explained it. Imagine there's a woman that ran away from an abusive ex. She finds out after she's escaped that she's pregnant, she gives birth, never puts the ex on the birth certificate, never tries to file for support because she wants to get as far away from him as possible. He finds out years later and tries to rope her back in using the child as leverage. She can just say no, and the state has to let it go. There is, however, a provision if the father was involved enough to know when the birth was, that he could submit his DNA to the state within 31 days of birth as a potential father. But that time has long passed. The law is designed this way on purpose. In the eyes of the family courts, I am a random person, and I was never claimed to Emma. If you think the state wants all children to be claimed by fathers and will gladly submit any DNA test whenever any potential father shows up, find a random single mom, call the family law court and say that you want to claim her child. I am tired of everyone acting like all I needed to do was fill out 1 sheet of paper and this nightmare would end. Please, just call a lawyer for a free consultation or post on legal advice and ask them. It doesn't work that way. In the comments, Zolumad says, "What really bothers me here is that an RO was in place, but Emma was confident enough to know that she was approaching the right kid." This is a great point. Really scary. Opie, you need to really take this seriously. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh crap, oh run. This has gone from, hey, you're the father despite the fact that you're obviously not, and I refuse to prove it, to, I know where you are, who you're married to, and who your kid is. My daughter was raised by me, so you can know what to expect. I'll never give up. Not the asshole here. At some point it becomes draining, and the little girl is going to need some serious therapy after everything is said and done. Why don't you go to the courthouse and make her do one so it can come to an end? OP says, because Natalie does not consent to it. And she said she's not seeking any sort of court-ordered support, so the court just shrugs and says, get a protective order. But can't what she's doing be considered slandering your name? And that can definitely hurt your reputation, so you can sue and force a paternity test, right? She's basically implying that you're a deadbeat who doesn't acknowledge your kid. Have you considered reporting your ex to CPS? She's emotionally abusing her daughter. She is telling her that you are her father and don't want her, and she dropped her off at the zoo to find your son and tell him that she is his sister. If you report this along with the constant restraining orders, surely CPS would intervene and at least interview her daughter to find out what else she is being brainwashed with and interview your ex as a potential danger to both her daughter and your son. The fact that she's following your son should be enough to take further measures. OP says, before Emma was involved, we had no idea what type of relationship the two had other than how Emma acted like in public very briefly. We had no reason to contact CPS. And again, delving into Natalie's home life with Emma could have been construed as a type of contact, which makes getting a new restraining order much, much harder. We need to know where to send the summons, and that's it. Yeah, I don't think you're the asshole here for calling your psycho ex's unrelated child your daughter. That's just the tip of the iceberg and a whole bunch of shit going on here. And before anyone comes at the comments for reading comprehension, the edits came like way after the comments that I read. I'm sorry that I read it in that order, but don't come at them for not having reading comprehension, please. I would like to personally thank you for sharing your experience with everyone online, OP. All we can really do is be, I would hope, impartial third parties here, just to say whether you're an asshole or not for calling the ex's unrelated child that. I don't think you can really get any practical advice because your lawyers know best. So I would just like to personally say that I don't think you're an asshole. I don't think there's much you can do besides going crazy that would make you an asshole. And now, on to the updates. Got off the phone with my attorney. We have a preliminary hearing on the new RO this week. We'll most likely be issued a temporary restraining order, and then after that, another hearing for the permanent restraining order. CPS is investigating Natalie and Emma's living situation. The teacher's report held a lot of weight, and my lawyer thinks that this might actually be the way to end the madness now. In family courts, for minors, there exists something that's like a temporary court-appointed guardian. I think the term is guardian ad litem, who is only a guardian for legal purposes and procedures and decisions of such, including for medical. If the family court appoints such for Emma, we can ask this temporary guardian for the DNA test, get this put to grounds. The madness might actually have an ending in sight. Adding here, I feel like I need to explain the relationship that I had with Natalie all those years ago. When I got back from my 2-month assignment, I was already dead set on breaking up with her. Her, "oh wait, I'm pregnant," was never going to make me marry her. In fact, I doubted she was pregnant for several weeks. The last year of our relationship, several red flags appeared in her behavior, ranging from demanding I check in with her while at work, only hang out with friends with her present, extreme bouts of jealousy if I ever seemed too friendly with women, including waitresses. I was in a line of work that demanded me being away for long stints, which she hated, but also kept me out of her reach for long periods of time. I think it was halfway through that last year I realized that when I was away, I did not miss her. In fact, I was relieved to plop into a cot and fall asleep after long hours of work without thinking about her. When the pregnancy turned out to be real, I made it clear that with a paternity test, I would pay support, split custody, and be a co-parent and nothing more. She wanted me to be her husband, no questions asked. No test, just pure blind faith and devotion to her and the child. The test, she insisted, was insulting. There was never going to be a relationship, and there was no relationship to salvage with Natalie. On the advice of the first attorney that I hired, the deal was no test, no contact. In the comments, the Crown and Anchor says, "That poor girl. She'll grow up either believing OP to be a deadbeat dad, or she'll grow up knowing the truth and knowing that her mum is trying to game the system and get money from a guy that's not the father of her child. Either way, she's going to have a lot of stuff to work out in therapy one day." Frankly, I can't believe OP does not have any legal recourse to force a paternity test. You'd think that there'd be one judge who was so annoyed with the constant restraining orders that he would have ordered a paternity test to rid the court system of this bullshit. Also, that mum probably has serious mental health struggles. She's kept this going for 15 years. She only has to win a concession once to get child support garnished and start getting his wages garnished. That is why she's doing it. She thinks she'll get a payout for back child support and other benefits off of his military pay and pension, insurance, etc. OP says, "This angle is actually very likely. I'll bring this up with my lawyer. Also, good guess on the military pension. I have a non-related DNA question. So do you think that maybe the friend who said you shouldn't treat her badly might be the father? He could have been trying to get you to feel bad while trying to cover up the affair they had. OP says, friend, let's call him Jim, wouldn't have touched Natalie with a 100-foot-long pole. He was 1, gay, and 2, hated Natalie. Despite these things, Jim believed strongly in charity. He volunteered at a food pantry for as long as I knew him. We haven't talked in almost a decade now, but last I heard, he still volunteers. I'm surprised you can't sue her for harassment or potentially defamation. Sounds like she's now putting your actual child at risk, as well as escalating overall. Hopefully she doesn't start resorting to more dangerous tactics, but you may want to look into further protections if possible. OP says, this bit of harassment with the CPS report and the new RO should, if we're lucky, be the kill shot that we need. Yeah, this situation just sucks all around. I wish that Emma had a better shot at life than being stuck with a mother like Natalie. I wish there were safety nets available to children that are prone to crazy parents like this in order to lessen the effect that their mental illness has on children like Emma. Because Emma doesn't deserve any of this. Emma doesn't deserve to be dragged through the courts. Emma doesn't deserve to have all this shit that Natalie has started and continues to whip up in her life, for God knows why. Emma deserves to have her real father in her life. Natalie is a piece of shit for starting all of this and dragging Emma along with her. My heart goes out to Emma, and I wish the world was more fair to her. And now, on to the next update, court update. So the preliminary hearing on the new RO went well. Emma and Natalie were there, and we discovered that Emma is currently living with her great-grandmother and has a guardian ad litem, which is a court-appointed guardian on legal matters. My lawyer thinks that this means that whatever was found in Natalie's home situation warranted removing Emma, and potentially severe enough that the great-grandmother only has physical custody and the need to appoint a guardian ad litem. During the hearing, we went through the whole song and dance, the past ROs, the whole deal. My lawyer turned to Emma's representative and said that we were willing to submit a DNA test and put this to bed. Natalie looked like she was having a conniption at that, and her own lawyer urged her to shush. Emma's representative accepted, and we were cheek-swabbed in the courthouse. A temporary order is now in place, while a second hearing is scheduled in the upcoming weeks for the permanent 2-year order. The order covers immediate family on both sides, and as I've detailed in the past, Natalie is actually good with following court orders, oddly enough. We have about 4 weeks before we have the definitive results back, but I'm not too worried either way. P.S. There was someone who thought the court couldn't use charity as a cudgel was the father. Well, that's Jim. Haven't talked to Jim in 10 years, but Jim is gay and hated Natalie. He just also happened to be a give the shirt off his back kind of dude, and as long as I knew him, volunteered at a food pantry. His protests came mostly from naivety, not from self-interest. And now, paternity updates. We got the results in late last week, as did Emma's party. I am not the father. Natalie had a major breakdown when she heard the news from her grandmother, Sylvia. Emma is currently living at Sylvia's and is out of Natalie's custody. This blow-up included a major tantrum on my front lawn, which also violated the temporary restraining order. Natalie has been arrested, and Sylvia hasn't bailed her out. Sylvia has communicated to my lawyer that she wanted to give her apologies for bankrolling Natalie's life the past 15 years. I only met Sylvia a few times when I was dating Natalie, and I know that Natalie grew up with her, and Sylvia had money, but was never really told the extent of that. Sylvia has communicated via my lawyer, which is technically allowed with the RO in place, that both she and Emma want to send me an apology via a letter. I told my lawyer that they were free to write whatever letters they wanted, as long as this was the last communication that we had with them. The permanent restraining order is certainly going to be granted now, with the emergency one violated. We still don't know what caused Emma to be removed from Natalie's care, or if Natalie has any underlying issues. If we do get the letters, I will post them. In the comments, Suspended Account says, I feel for Emma. I mean, look at her maternal influence. But I'm glad that you finally have answers and can hopefully keep Natalie away from you and your family permanently from now on. Hopefully this will end the harassment, and even though you knew she wasn't your daughter, now you have the proof. Either that or she's going to insist that the test was wrong, but refuse to take another one. Man, Sylvia must be in her 70s. Imagine starting to raise a teenager all over again at that age. I have a feeling that Sylvia was likely already doing a lot of the raising of Emma. At least the stressful parts anyways. The mum probably retained her rights to the fun part of parenting. To quote an evil man, many such cases. Don't quote him. Can't believe he's so prolific that I know exactly who that is. Or just the exclamation mark retweet is crazy. What was Natalie's thought process? That they'll never do a DNA test? I'm guessing that she was hoping she could wear OP down with unrelenting persistence. If I refuse the DNA test and harass him enough, eventually he'll just agree that Emma is his and we'll be a happy family. If enough people believe her story, she could have potentially used social peer pressure against OP. That's obviously not how stalking and harassment actually work, but Natalie isn't exactly the picture of stable mental health. Yeah, I feel like it's one of those situations where if you repeat a lie enough times, it just becomes the truth. And Natalie was probably deep down those boss babe TikTok influencer ones, where I'm just making this up. It's not real. This isn't real, I don't think. But they're just giving her brainworms, being like, hell yeah, keep that shit going, sis. Wear him down. He'll eventually have to submit to it. Let's take some drugs as well so we can fuel the delusions a bit more and give you more power so that every 2 years you can hit your peak and really come at him this time. It'll be different this time. Is that a good interpretation of what was going on in her head? Or am I just as delusional as Natalie in this situation? And now, onto the final updates. Got the letters. So I got them Friday, after my lawyer read them and deemed them okay. Sylvia's letter was detailing that Natalie had a rough family life. Stuff I already knew about Natalie's father running out, then her mother, leaving Sylvia to raise her. A lot of, I did my best with what I had. Sylvia detailed that her and Emma will be okay. She does still have some money, not FU money, but enough that Emma will have enough to get a very decent jumpstart in life when she turns 18. Sylvia housed Natalie and Emma in a house that she owned in the city, while Sylvia lived about an hour north, out in the country. She sent Natalie money monthly for expenses and saw them about 4 times a year: birthday, Easter, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. As to Emma's living situation, the only thing that Sylvia said was the photos she saw of the city house broke her heart. Needless to say, Sylvia pledged to not enable Natalie anymore. Emma's letter was a lot sadder. It started with, "Father who is not my father," which I found weird. She detailed how Natalie told her that if she behaved, I would accept her. My acceptance of her hinged entirely on Emma doing as told. Emma said Sylvia has her in therapy and that Natalie told them both that I was dodging the test using legal loopholes. She said seeing me suggest the test in person made her feel like Natalie was right. I was able to accept her. She felt happy and hopeful. When the results came in, she said that was worse than not knowing at all. She apologized for scaring my son. Brother who is not my brother, as she said in the letter. There is a weird tone to her letter, and I feel like she's coming to terms with things. The letter did hurt to read, but both of them pledged not to interact with any of us anymore. Natalie is still in jail. Maybe it's finally over. In the comments, Breezer to Cool says, "This is heartbreaking for Emma. This poor girl has been lied to and led to believe that her behavior was why you didn't accept her. Her mother obviously had her extremely convinced that there was no other option. It seems clear that she only wanted connection with her father, and now she's found herself without one and no knowledge of whom he may be. Never mind the fact that her mother has lied to her for her entire life. Thankfully, it sounds like she's with someone who will do what they can to make sure she heals from this as much as she possibly could. Hopefully, therapy is effective for her. She sounds to have a sense of humor about it though. The father that is not my father and brother that's not my brother is a bit funny. That's a coping mechanism. I hope she does well, and glad to hear that you should at least be done with worrying about Emma contacting you again. Hopefully. Natalie will probably still be a problem, but hopefully the next 2 years will give her time to think about her actions and maybe be more concerned about her daughter than dragging you into her drama. For what it's worth, father who's not my father sounds like a child who's believed their whole life that you were her father, but you're not, and she has to figure out how to know that, but overcome all the baggage she was given around you. Same with your son. She lost out on a father, which is true, but speaking from experience, realizing the depth of the lies and bullshit that your abusive parent fed you your whole life is rough. She lost the image of who she thought her mother was, too. I'm sorry that this happened to you. I'm sorry this happened to Emma. You are both victims in this, and I hope you're both able to heal and move on. I think the most accurate representation we have in this day and age of the daughter is the situation with Gypsy Rose Blanchard. Like, look how unhinged Gypsy became as a result of her mother's antics, and her entire worldview just becoming shattered as a result of that. Obviously, I don't think that Emma will kill her mother in this instance, but we've seen it played out in real life before. Emma was very much a victim, and you're gonna have weird things like father who's not my father, brother who's not my brother, from someone that's been living in an entirely alternate reality to us, their entire existence, their entire upbringing. That is her baseline level of sanity, and now she's being brought into the real world. I'm all for her having that weird coping mechanism, whether it's humor, whether it's serious or not. I think this experience is something that Emma really needed to bring her the stability that she deserves. I can't imagine how isolated Emma feels, but at the same time, I would hope she also feels free and, away from all the craziness that she was brought up with now, that she can have a normal life with Sylvia, who I would hope is someone that is trustworthy, is someone that is stable, and will help her transition back into a normal life, and that she can be done with all of this. Again, thank you for sharing all of this, OP. You didn't have to do that, but I think it's very helpful to see real-life examples of situations like this for those that may be struggling with similar situations, and what tools we can provide them to deal with situations like that and hopefully overcome those situations. Again, thank you very much. Am I the asshole for wanting my husband to hold my hand during birth? I, 35 female, am 7 months pregnant. I'm married to a family medical doctor, 35 male, and we've been together for 10 years. Throwaway Reddit because my sister-in-law follows me on Reddit and reports everything to my husband. I'm reaching out to all of you to ask your advice on a fight that my husband and I are having on our birth plan. My husband really wants to deliver the baby, which I can kind of understand. It's not uncommon for doctors to deliver their own kid. There is still an OBGYN there monitoring everything, and the doctor father steps in at the last minute as mum is crowning to just catch the baby. My husband has, I guess, always dreamed of being the one to pull the baby out, while I pictured it very differently. I thought he would be up by my head, holding my hand and helping me through it. He says he will do that, but the easiest part is the very end where I don't need him anyway. He said if I really want someone there, his mum can step in. I've been on my own since I was a kid living in my car, so I don't have anyone that I'd want in there with me except for him. I don't really even want his mum in there. She's great, but he is my person. I know it would be cool for him to deliver our baby, but I really feel like I need him there. I personally didn't want our doctors to know that he was a doctor, because as soon as any of my doctors, or even our vet, finds out he's a doctor, they talk exclusively to him. I don't even want him to go to the prenatal appointments anymore because no one talks to me. They all talk to him, and I can't ask my questions to anyone but my husband at home. But he's already told everyone that he'll be delivering his first baby. I guess I don't want this because I wanted him to be there as a husband and a father and not a doctor. I see him as a doctor 95% of the time, and I wanted to experience this with my husband, not my husband, the doctor. I wanted him to be there for me, as this is my first birth and I am terrified. He just keeps telling me that I'll be fine. He pulled in friends and family who also don't understand my point of view. They said this is his first child too, and to just let him have this since I had the honor of being pregnant. The honor of being pregnant is crazy. What are they saying? Yeah, sorry, you're not human. You just had the honor of being the birth giver for this child. You just got the honor of being his partner. Excuse me? I just really wanted him to hold my hand all the way through it and to be able to share this experience as parents and people instead of a medical professional. I was hoping that we could see the baby at the same time and just be equals in this. Am I being selfish for wanting this to be my way? In the comments, someone says, he pulled in friends and family who also don't understand my POV. They said that this is his first child too, and to just let him have this since I had the honor of being pregnant. Who are these people? And why does everyone defer to your husband this way? Your request is totally reasonable, and your husband's lack of understanding is pretty glaring. Not the asshole. OP replies, his mum, sisters, and our really close friends that I guess are technically more his friends than mine. I haven't brought it up to my friends because I'm just not comfortable having our friends weigh into our relationship the way that he is. I think his mum just likes his plan because it pulls her into the room, which I attempted to veto early on. I do love her so much, but I wanted this to be our experience. Not the asshole. But you both have visions of how your baby will be born, so you need to talk it out. Chances are the very last part of the birth that you're not going to be holding his hands. He's going to be with you in the delivery room either way, but this is something the two of you need to resolve. It's not enough to say, I want. Find a compromise. For example, if he holds your hand the entire time that you're in labor and only steps in as doctor for the few minutes of actual birth, wouldn't you both have a win? Focus on having a healthy baby and creating a happy family instead of on scenes that you've created in your imagination. And that applies to the both of you. OP replies, I don't see that as a compromise. That's exactly what he wants to have happen. But the entire birthing process is incredibly emotional and exhausting. I don't want him to step away from those moments because they are what I picture to be the most painful and exhausting. I want him to be with me until the baby is out and we can hold her. I don't want to be abandoned during the birth while he and the other doctors catch the baby and begin the baby's workup. He's going to deliver the baby and hold the baby, all while I won't be able to see anything because my legs will be in the air. I'll miss my husband holding and seeing my baby for the first time, and I'll feel completely by myself and like I'm missing out on those crucial first moments. Maybe you're not a woman, but nothing sounds worse to me than having my legs in the stirrups immediately post-birth with a sheet draped over my legs where I can't see my husband or baby meeting for the first time. I think you're overestimating what your attention span will be like in those moments. My mum let my dad catch both of their babies, and she told me that when she was doing those final pushes, she didn't care where my dad was. All she wanted was to get the baby out. She also said that it meant a lot to see the joy on my dad's face and having him hand her the baby instead of some random doctor or nurse, making the bonding process more special. I'm not telling you this to change your mind, I'm just giving you an idea of what that moment could be like. OP replies, I just don't see it playing out that way. If he's there to catch the baby, he's going to want to do some of the exams, and we are already having so much trouble getting the doctors to talk to me and keep me informed. It just feels like another link that I'll lose to the situation to actually be kept up to date and prioritized in the moment. I know that sounds really silly, but I've been sitting in my ultrasound appointments and prenatal appointments, and they are focused on the belly, but not on me. Pretty much everyone talks exclusively to my husband. It's been a huge challenge to feel like I'm a part of it and not just coincidentally carrying the baby. Tell him that you've had to do everything by yourself your whole life already. This is not one of the things that you can do by yourself, and you want him there when it comes out. It is crazy when that thing comes out of me. Just say them when they come out. You just want support once from start to finish. It's lonely always having to take yourself places, to teach yourself, entertain yourself, and so on. And it's exhausting. Especially growing up like that your whole childhood, knowing people can just up and leave. Maybe tell him that you're feeling so effing lonely that you just want him to be there. If he doesn't understand, you may as well do this by yourself again. Surely the nurse can tell him to stay with you, and now is not the right time, Mr. Doctor, sir. Oh, and it's out. Sorry, congratulations, your parents. OP replies, I'm going through so many comments, but I stopped and read yours 50 times, and it hit me really hard. This is it. This is why I feel the way I do. Thank you so much. Thank you. Genuinely can't imagine how isolating it feels to have to go through all of that as someone that's been connected to that experience of the medical profession. I can understand where you're coming from in that, and I can understand the isolating feelings there. To me, it speaks volumes here that your husband hasn't made an effort in all of these consultations to put you first and instead puts his career and his, I would say, ego, there are egos when it comes to people in the medical world, above you. I know better. I'm just doing my job. I'm in working doctor mode, automated robot, and all of a sudden, your wants and needs and your desires are separated from that professional life. It's amazing to me that he's so far along into this process as well, that you're married to him, you're having his kid, and he still cannot separate his work life from his home life. It's genuinely very concerning. I completely get where you're coming from with this, and you do deserve better here. You do need to advocate for yourself. Like we see with everyone that has to deal with something that's going wrong with them, even if it's in their head or not, when it comes to you and your body and your condition, whether it be physical or mental, you have to continually advocate for yourself. And when you feel like you're being shut down by doctors, you go to someone else, or you come back and say, knock, knock, biatch, it's me again. You didn't take me seriously last time. I'm going to keep coming back until you take me seriously. In this case, OP, I would be advocating for your relationship. This is definitely a situation where it's a 2 yes, 1 no, of course, but it's a bit more nuanced, and you need to have a come to God moment with this guy, that's for sure. Not the asshole, absolutely. And now, on to the updates. I'm going to confront him tonight when he gets home. He's already going to be upset because we both have restrictions on how much time we spend on social media sites, and I have significantly surpassed that today and yesterday, which he'll know as soon as he reviews the router logs. I'm hopeful I can catch him before that makes him too upset. Excuse me? He monitors the router logs? Why? What's going on? I did reach out to some of our mutual friends just to see what he's told them for why this is so important to him, only to learn that he never discussed this with them. Surprise, surprise. I think he made up what he's been saying that they said. They were really shocked to learn that we've been having this disagreement, and were actually quite supportive of an expectant mother controlling her birth plan. I'm quite nervous about his reaction to this as well, and I'd like to get ahead of this. Wish me luck and cross your fingers for me. Second and final update. Hello all. I first want to say thank you. Thank you every single one of you who took the time to reply, send messages, check up on me, send me messages again, and share your stories. I've read so much more than I'll ever be able to respond to. Thank you. Those who took the time to share resources and volunteer your own time, you are angels in the flesh. Thank you. I'm so incredibly touched by this overwhelming outpour of love and support. Also, thank you to even the people who told me that I was selfish or crazy or any other derogative that you chose to use. I'm not sure what helped me more, the people posting such great questions about if I felt safe, comfortable, loved, or the people telling me that I was the terrible person. Something about attempting to reread my story as an outsider and seeing the comments where Redditors told me that I was in fact the problem broke something in me, and I finally saw through the haze. But hey, maybe try to be nicer to strangers on the internet? No. I'm kidding. And consider your words more carefully. We're all people trying to get through life. So many of you are kind, caring, and loving individuals. Thank you for caring about some random on the internet. I don't even have words. I can't say a whole lot about these last few days. So much has happened that I'll be processing for years to come. All I can say is that I am safe, I am free. Read into that as you will. I guess someone doesn't have to worry about the router logs being read anymore. Let's go. My next steps are leaving this chapter of my life behind. I'm moving out of the city, and I'm going to start trying again somewhere new. Somewhere beautiful, where every time I look outside, it's hard to believe that it's real life. I've always felt drawn to the mountains with all of their beauty and might. I don't plan to ever log into this account, or even Reddit, ever again. I did the same thing at 16, and I'm hopeful those last few decades have set me up for more success than I had the first time chasing a new start. If you read my story and you relate to it in any way, or you too feel smothered, voiceless, and alone every single day locked in the house with someone who's supposed to love you, I just want you to know what I now know. That isn't normal. That isn't what life is supposed to be. There are people you can rely on, and strangers can be your best friend. The cost may be steep, but the cost to stay is so much more. Farm this post for all the comments and support available. I pass it on to you and beg you to use what resources you can find. The sheer volume of personal messages I received from people in the same boat, people sharing support, people checking in to make sure I was okay, there's such a community here, and they will help you before you even realize that you need it. I'm not sure what's next, and that's terrifying, but also refreshing. I haven't had that in so many years. Thank you. In the comments, Benabik says that we have limits on social media and he reads the logs twist probably shouldn't have been surprising. I'm glad they're out. The second paragraph of the first post gave me my first hint of trouble. Throwaway Reddit because my sister-in-law follows me on Reddit and reports everything to my husband. Why would her sister-in-law be reporting if everything were okay? Same. The second I read that, my mindset changed about, oh, this is a husband with a certain view about how things will go, which is clashing with his wife, to, this sounds an awful lot like an abusive relationship, but I'll reserve judgment until I've completed the post. I wish I'd been wrong. It was an abusive relationship. If you add all the things, she had no friends, she wasn't even allowed to be online and make friends there, no family, completely cut off from the world, it paints a pretty bleak picture. He only wanted an incubator. All of the medical staff treated her like an incubator once they learned he was a doctor too. I can't even imagine. I'd feel like I lost my mind. And she was so beaten down, she didn't realize how alarming it all was until strangers on social media that she wasn't supposed to be on pointed it out. Thank goodness she got out. He was monitoring her time online and his sister was monitoring her online activity. Jesus. I hope she's safe and happy and healthy. I hope he never finds her or the kid. This is one where I hope there aren't any updates, because that will mean that she is safe somewhere. Or if there is an update, it'll be that the divorce went through and he doesn't have any visitation with the kid. If there is a kid. She doesn't mention it in the update at all, just says that she's free rather than her baby and her. I hope that was just a slip and she just didn't want to bring the kid up. Read into that however you'd like to read into that. That's why OP left that intentionally vague. I'm glad that OP is free and is out of there and recognized that, oh shit, this is an incredibly abusive relationship. Thank you for sharing that with us, OP. I very much appreciate you for being a voice for others in similar situations like this. And hopefully if anyone is in a situation like this or knows someone that's in a similar situation, they can recognize similar patterns and be like, oh shit, maybe I can help do something about that. There are many ways that story could have gone, and I'm very glad that OP is free and out of there. But yeah, I'm sure OP has mixed many of the details up so that the sister-in-law doesn't get a grasp on the fact that this story is her sister-in-law and not someone else that is random. I even admit that I didn't pick up on the abusiveness of the sister-in-law part. That was very weird by me. I'm usually perfect. Sorry about that, guys. Kidding. Am I the asshole for telling my husband that he shouldn't be upset when my daughter said that her uncle would be the one to walk her down the aisle on her wedding day? I, female 46, got pregnant with my daughter Sarah, female 26, when I was in college. My parents and my then boyfriend's parents pushed us to marry, which we did. My late husband unfortunately passed away a week after our daughter's second birthday because of a heart complication that we didn't know he even had. It was a very hard time for me, and I went through a very bad depression. 4 years later, I met my now husband, Robert, male 46, on a blind date set up by a friend. He was one of my best friend's cousins. We hit it off and got married a year later. Even when we were dating, he was very hands-on with my daughter, and it didn't take too long for my daughter to call him Papa. Even until we got married, and when I got pregnant 2 years into the marriage and gave birth to twins, male 17 and female 17, he still acted like a father to Sarah. She was even included in my husband's family reunions and the cousin group photo shoot that my in-laws organize every Christmas. Things took a bit of a turn when Sarah turned 18. She started calling him by his first name, and both Robert and I were taken aback with the change of attitude that she was displaying. I asked Robert what that was about, but he only shrugged, not knowing the reason either. I thought things would go back to normal, but she's been consistent in calling him by his first name. So I asked her if we could talk. Robert asked if he could join, which Sarah agreed. To make a long story short, my daughter overheard my husband talking about a Father's Day trip to his friend who owns a hostel. His friend asked him if he forgot to include Sarah since my husband only asked him to prepare 3 bedrooms. My husband replied that he planned this trip for his real children only. It wouldn't make sense if Sarah was on the trip since he wasn't her real father. This made Sarah feel betrayed and hurt because she saw him as her real dad, even if she knew that he was her stepdad. My husband tried to explain to her that though he loves her as a father, his love for the twins was different since they were his real children. I wanted to just shut him up because he was overusing the word real, but Sarah told us to leave her room. What made that day even more depressing was that this day was her last week with us before she leaves the country for college. Since then, every time she comes home, Sarah acts like nothing happened, but continues to call Robert by his first name. Robert didn't want to add fuel to the fire and just tolerated it. And now, a few years since then, my daughter announced her engagement to her longtime boyfriend. We were very happy for her, as they've been dating since they were still college freshmen. 2 weeks before their wedding, we were wondering who would be walking Sarah down the aisle. I assumed it would be Robert since I thought we have moved past that incident, but no. My daughter scoffed at me when I told her about Robert walking her down the aisle. She said, "I thought it was obvious that Uncle Greg, my late husband's brother, would be the one to do that. Besides, I'm not his real daughter. It wouldn't make sense if he walked me down the aisle." I didn't talk back. Instead, apologized for my ignorance and told her that I'll speak with Robert about it, since he also assumed that he'd be the one to walk her down the aisle. When I told him what Sarah said, he was pissed, but I politely reminded him of the incident years ago, which made him even more upset. He said that it was a long time ago, and that Sarah should just move on. I, who was offended for my daughter, told him that he shouldn't be upset, since he doesn't see her as his real child anyway. He then got teary-eyed and told me not to speak to him. He still attended Sarah's wedding but looked visibly down. We still aren't on good terms and have been pretending in front of relatives. My daughter doesn't know about this and I want to keep it that way. But nevertheless, it's been a week since my daughter's wedding and Robert is still upset. He only talks to me about the twins and household stuff, but beyond that, he keeps everything to himself. I feel really bad and think he's acting this way because of me. So, without being said, am I the asshole? In the comments, Dry Sandwich 860 says, Robert brought this on himself. He acted as her father from the time she was 2 years old, so he is the only father she has ever been aware of. Yet he called her not his real child, and was careless and cruel enough to do so where she overheard him. Of course, the consequences of that mean attitude is that she doesn't consider him to be her dad. He created this situation. Now he's continuing to be immature and cruel by punishing you for stating the reality of the situation. I think you need to talk to him, and because of his immature attitude, you should probably do it in the presence of a mediator, like a family therapist, if you can afford one. If you can't afford one, I would show him this. He will hurt this relationship with you if he doesn't man up and take responsibility. He could have been doing his best to repair the damage that his cruel comment made, but he didn't bother. So of course Sarah assumes that nothing's changed. He is not the wronged person here. She is. Agreed. Beyond repairing the damage, he said she wasn't his real child. There is no repairing that. The only thing he should have been doing was accepting the consequences of his actions. Words. It's not even like Sarah iced him out. She just stopped herself from continuing to view him as a dad. Nothing about this post indicates that she was disrespectful. Good for OP for trying to hold him accountable, because he seems to want to erase a monumental part of his past. He literally asked for it. This is the only situation where this phrase makes actual sense. I didn't even spot any mention of multiple groveling apologies from Robert. He just expected her to get over it. Or the thing is, most people don't even ask for groveling. They just need a genuine apology and a promise to do better. It looks like Robert couldn't even do that. This stands out to me as well. It must have hurt Sarah deeply to be rejected as a child by the person she considered her father. So Robert is far from the victim here. He needs to apologize and talk to Sarah yesterday. And the same counts for OP. She just assumed they'd moved on from this. But OP needs to talk to her daughter about this incident. It must have caused her daughter a ton of pain, and you shouldn't just ignore these feelings. Sadly, he needed to talk to Sarah years ago when it happened. He's way too late now. Not the asshole. How would he feel if you said he wasn't your real husband since your first spouse passed? This, as his wife, I would definitely feel like saying this to him. Not that it should be said, but that's how mad I would be. Yeah, I agree with you with that. I mean, you can probably dance around a subject like that. You don't have to be so mean as to say, you're not my real husband because the original one passed away. There were definitely parallels, that same situation. That husband has a blood connection to OP's daughter, whereas he doesn't. Therefore, let's put two and two together here, my man. I understand why Robert is upset, but I don't think he has any right to be upset, and I think it's unrealistic for him to expect everything to be hunky-dory. I think he's lacking emotional intelligence in this, and a spine. If he had more emotional intelligence, awareness, and a backbone, he would have immediately drawn back exactly what he said, apologized, and done the right thing. Because, you know, if you can understand how it feels to be told those things, you can understand how that feels and what kind of effect those words would have on your psyche and your entire worldview. Like, she would have been crushed by that. And this man just said, "Not my circus, not my monkeys. Anyway, I'm not apologizing. I'm just going to forget this happened." I think, to me, it kind of speaks to when people are bullied in high school and the victims of bullying remember what that person said and how that made them feel, and that sticks with them their whole life. But for the bullies, that's just another day in paradise. They completely forget that any of these events even happen. This is just another situation for me where it's like, as the wife, how do you stay with someone like this without processing that situation thoroughly? Please don't take it as me victim blaming here, but how did it get to this point where nothing has been said? How did you not force any conversations, any hard talks between those two, seeing the situation as it is? I just want clarity on that, and I don't think I'm going to get clarity. Anyway, not the arsehole, OP. And now onto the update. It's Sarah responding. "Hi guys, I'm Sarah. This is not my Reddit account, it's my cousin's from my bio father's side. My cousin sent me this post while my husband and I were packing some stuff for our honeymoon earlier, and she thought it was my mum. My cousin is one of my go-to people, so she knows every single drama in my life. We are really tight. I was skeptical at first since I would have never thought of my mother using Reddit. It's just too random. Until I read the overheard part of the post, and it just brought back very good memories. On top of that, I noticed that the fake names used are based on the first letters of our real names. It gave me the confirmation that this is my mum. I just want to say that I don't appreciate that some of you are calling my mum an asshole, but I also don't think it's your fault since mum left out a lot of details. After I left for college in the States, a lot of things happened. My cousin, the owner of this account, was the one filling me up with updates. That just sounds weird. Don't say filling up. Please don't say filling up like that. So, Mum and Robert had a huge fight regarding me. Plus, Robert always came home late and drunk from the cockpit. I hope he wasn't flying. The twins, well, they were shielded from the drama because they were children. They kind of separated for like a year. My mum went to live with her parents. I was always in contact with my mum, and she always asked for my whereabouts. You know, normal mum stuff. She also kind of filled me in about her separation from Robert. I actually felt guilty because I knew it was because of me. Their biggest fight was when Uncle Greg, I'm all Greg, I'll be using fake names that Mum used to not add confusion, confronted Robert about the incident because when I arrived at my university dorm, I called him sobbing and told him about everything. Uncle Greg is the typical cool single uncle and has always been protective of us cousins. So when he learned about it, he went full-on Papa Bear mode for me. Robert was kind of mad that he was getting into our business. Mum told Robert that Uncle Greg, actually, my cousins and I call him Dada because he really is like our second parents, also has a say in this since he's family, but Robert wasn't happy about it. So yeah, that insinuated a big argument that almost led to Robert and Uncle Greg having a fist fight. They were already throwing unkind words to each other, and everyone was just emotional. When I learned about what happened, like I mentioned, I felt guilty and bad. So I sent Robert an email since he doesn't use Messenger. In the email, I told him that he should apologize to Mum and make things right for the twins. I didn't receive any response from him, but eventually he and Mum made up after a year. I was quite happy because I really didn't want to ruin my mum's marriage. I love my mum so much, and I'd do anything for her. You might be wondering why my mum didn't initiate divorce. Well, first of all, divorce is still illegal in my country. Second, annulment is extremely expensive, and even if we were kind of well off, my mum's a physical therapist and a teacher at a university, while Robert used to be a public accountant until I was 16 and owns a commercial space. Their pockets would have hurt, and annulment takes a lot of time to process. Today, I reached out to them and I told them that I wanted a proper conversation because this has been long overdue. I think we all need some closure. I do want to note that I have moved on, but forgive? I don't think so. It pisses me off that Robert thinks that I can just move on, forgive, and forget. It's hard to think that this was the man that I used to call Papa, when even more sad is that I still see him as my Papa. The pain I felt that day, and when I started calling him by his first name. I even wanted to major in accountancy because of him. He was my role model. There were a lot of moments where I just wanted to go back to that day and pretend I didn't hear anything and just let it slide. Then maybe I'd still call him Papa. But I would be an idiot for thinking that, because no matter what, the damage has already been done. So yeah, I'm contemplating if I would update you guys on our talk tomorrow. I've texted my mum to not look over the comments here because some of you are just brutal. Sorry, I just don't want my mum to feel bad. P.S. I wanted to add that both my mum and Robert paid for my college tuition. I did not get loans or anything. Student loans are uncommon in our country. Parents are always the one paying. I'm actually grateful that Robert helped pay, but that still doesn't remove the pain. My husband has been really patient and supportive. A little trivia, we were classmates in high school. I was the talkative girl in class, social butterfly, and he was one of those goofballs. And we actually fought a lot back then. And we eventually developed feelings for each other throughout freshman year. We were surprised that we went to the same university. We were both catching up on each other's lives, and yeah, the rest was history. In the comments, Brian124 says, I want to say that you've handled everything insanely well. Your stepfather's a really crappy dude, and I'm so glad that he was only a guest at your wedding, because that's the only thing he is, a guest in your life. He isn't family, and he's a pretty crappy person for what he said about you. I'm glad you have your mum and your uncle and your cousin in your life. Your mum can do way better. I would have a conversation with them and set some boundaries. You will let Robert know that you will not treat him or address him as a father, and nor will your children. This was something he wanted, and you were simply respecting his wish as you were not his real daughter. You can still have a cordial relationship with him for the sake of your mum and siblings, but he should know that things will never be the same. You can express how much his words hurt you at the time, but you are strong and will move past that. Do not let him play victim because he didn't walk you down the aisle, because that was a decision that he made the day when he said that you weren't his real daughter. He wants you to treat him like a father, but he doesn't think of you as a daughter. OP's mum comes in to reply and says, "Hello everyone. I would like to thank everyone for your advice and comments. My daughter found and commented on my post, and we'll be talking about this tomorrow. She had just messaged me earlier. I was feeling tired today and couldn't sleep, so I was able to write this. I also want to thank the people for calling me out. I know that I'm not the best mother, but I try. But yes, I am an asshole for tolerating him. I don't know what will happen in our talk tomorrow, but I do want everyone to have closure. I also want to add that my daughter and I do not have a strained relationship. She didn't want me to walk down the aisle because then Robert would be pushing her to let him walk her too, since he thought that we're a package. I'll try to update, but it would be difficult since I know it's going to be emotional." Maru says, "I'm always skeptical of people randomly finding posts. I don't know anyone in my life who even knows what Reddit is, but this one does sound believable. I don't get Robert, honestly. Why being the perfect dad for decades only to ruin it like this? But he made his bed and now has to lie on it. Divorce is illegal where they're from, so I have a pretty good idea where that is. Machismo runs rampant. Robert didn't father her and he never forgot it. Although it sounds like she was loved and accepted as much as one could hope to be as a stepchild, he would never see her as his real child. Annulment in their situation also sounds extremely unlikely. The only reason my fiance got one was because her spouse beat her viciously every chance he got and threatened to kill her over Messenger constantly, also beating her children and making her unable to see her children for over a decade in fear of her life. Even then, we were terrified that it wouldn't be accepted. Also, if he didn't want the annulment to be approved, he would simply have to say he didn't want the annulment as well, and that's grounds for automatically denying the petition. One side has to be against it for it to be legal. They even spend government resources investigating to make sure that there is no collusion." Our next post is by user CInfluence2559, titled, "Am I the asshole here for suggesting a threesome to my date who brought a friend along and then expected me to pay? I've been talking to Denise for a couple of weeks, and our schedules finally aligned last weekend. I said we should get food and see where it goes. She didn't want me to pick her up, so we arranged to meet up. I got there early and had a beer while I waited. When she showed up, she had a friend along. I thought maybe that was her ride, or she wanted someone to meet me in case things got sketchy. Nope. The girl sat with us at the restaurant. She ordered drinks and a meal. She was cool, and I enjoyed talking to her almost as much as with Denise. When the bill came, the waitress asked how we were paying. I asked for a couple of seconds. The waitress left and I asked Denise what was going on. She said that her friend was along to make sure that I was a good guy and that I should be paying for her too. I said that I'd only asked her out and not the friend, and that I would not be paying for her. Denise said that I should be trying to impress her, and I was failing. I saw what was going on and decided to bounce. I said that I would pay for supper if a threesome was on the table. Denise and her friend got offended and said that I was a pig. When the waitress came back, I paid for my meal and drinks. I also made sure to give her a cash tip and explained that it was a tip and to not be applied to the rest of the bill. Then I got up and left. Denise texted and called me dozens of times to insult me and call me cheap. I may have been vulgar, but I don't think I was in the wrong. Am I the asshole here? In the comments, less than 1968 says, "I can't help but be curious. What if they did say yes to a threesome?" OP says, "Probably freaked out. But you would have paid, right?" And OP says, "Yes." I like the cut of your jib. Nervous, confused, maybe a little nauseous, but still willing to give it a go. That's crazy. Still willing to give it a go. My guy. It's funny how she says that you have to pay for her friend so she feels safe. And it's also funny how she says you need to impress her and failed. At the same time, she's not concerned at all what kind of impression she leaves and how she also needs to respect you to be taken seriously. Not the asshole, you did really well. Unfortunately, a lot of people nowadays believe that they are the prize and can do no wrong. Many don't take accountability or responsibility for their actions or what they say. Like I said, it's unfortunate that people don't believe that it's a two-way street. It's not surprising. Shitty women like OP encountered have a sort of god complex going on where they think guys should put them up on a pedestal and kiss their ass just because they are women. Honestly, even as a woman, I'm upset about her and her friend's behavior. I'd understand the friend coming to check you out, even her sitting at the bar or a different table to check you out and for safety, but to sit at the table with you two feels weird. Then for them both to expect you to pick up the whole tab is ridiculous. I honestly giggled at the way that you handled it with the joke about the threesome because it shows how ridiculous their expectations were. It also allowed for a decent getaway. Block her and be done with it, not the asshole. Not the asshole. I'm not one for hookup since I'm old and ugly. Hey, come on. But if I was getting together, seems to be when you hook up. If she brought another girl along for you to pay for, it wasn't unreasonable. But you weren't doing it as a real suggestion, you were doing it to screw with them. OP says, yeah, it wasn't a serious suggestion. I would not know how to handle two women at once. I'm not that guy. I'm unsure of the comedian who said it, but they said, if I wanted to disappoint two people at the same time, I'd ring my parents. Whoa, let's not get them in on it now, come on. But in all seriousness, I feel like that was a good strategy to say that. Because the downside would be a threesome and disappointing two people at once, obviously, but the upside is that the most likely case is, what happened here? You get to put a little bit of minor disrespect on top of their major disrespect. And fortunately, two wrongs made a right in this situation, and you dodged a bullet, so the saying goes. I think someone's been watching a bit too many girl boss gatekeep gaslight videos where the man is expected to make a good impression, yeah, because I am the prize. I don't have to do shit. I can do everything wrong. I'm testing that man. If he ain't got his money, he ain't getting no honey. That's right. Click, 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 click. But as it goes, I don't think you did anything wrong. I thought it was really funny. So I'm giving you a not the arsehole for this one. And now, onto the update. Strange update. I ran into Denise's friend while I was out with my dog about a week ago. I prepared myself for a verbal assault after our last encounter. Instead, she apologized. She said that it had been Denise's idea for her to come along, and she had been surprised when Denise expected me to pay the full bill. She said that she had thought that I was a toxic asshole for suggesting a threesome, but that she had seen the story on TikTok and recognized that it was my point of view. She tracked down the post on Reddit, and the comments stung, but that they had been fair. She said that she had enjoyed talking to me and offered to take me out for supper, her treat, to make up for lost time. I declined, but I offered to let her buy me a coffee at the dog-friendly cafe by the park. We had a really great time, and she's the sort of person that I was looking for when I'd asked out Denise. I got her information, and we've been talking for a week now. We're gonna go see Twisters on Friday, my treat. So something good came out of it. That's all, and wish me luck. What a twist. This is not an advertisement for the movie Twisters coming out on Friday. That's not what this is. It's not an advertisement. Don't go watch the movie Twisters on Friday, okay, guys? In the comments, No Lavishness says, I did not see that coming. I hope the movie date goes well. Good luck. The date will be great. Good luck. I love Reddit comments like that. It's so inane, but so funny. Good luck, it's gonna go great, as long as Denise doesn't show up. Ah, shit. That would be funny if the two women showed up. Nasty, but funny. Seriously though, hopefully it goes well. Every day we stride closer to the dead internet theory, I swear to God. Plot twist, you're just playing the long game, and you totally need to bring one of your bros to your date with her. OP says, no. Like I said last time, my sex life is as vanilla as you could imagine. Bro, just some advice. She found your first post. She'll find this one too. I hope you asked her if she's okay with aspects of your relationship being posted on Reddit, because I wouldn't be. Not criticism. Your post was awesome. I just don't want to read about your relationship going in the shitter because of an oversight. I laughed when he said that he would have freaked out had they said yes. But I hope he confirmed that this was a two-person date to avoid repeats of the situation. I'm just imagining him paying for the date, getting back to his place, and being unable to get hard. Wow, what are the chances he saw her again? Me, realizing I now live in a small town where if you have beef with Susan on Saturday, the universe automatically aligns so that you see her in the produce aisle on Tuesday. Truth. I grew up in a town where my graduating class in high school had less than 30 people, and we were an exceptionally large class, and it was public school. All's well that ends well in this one, but I was really hoping for the strange update to be about a threesome OP, and you have really sullied my expectations with this normal yet unexpected twist. Did I mention Twist is coming out on Friday? Unaffiliated, by the way, it's not an ad read. Congratulations, OP. I hope all goes well. I mean, it's very unexpected that the date that pissed you off ended up being a good thing. But in the future, when you guys are married and have kids, this is going to be one hell of a story to tell to your kids. Especially how you went to watch Twist afterwards. You can bring that up as your yearly tradition movie to watch with the kids. It's going to be epic.
Am I the asshole for making my family cancel their vacation because I won't watch their dogs? So my parents, 82 male and 75 female, asked if I could help them book a much-needed vacation. They also asked me to do the same for my brother, 43, and sister-in-law, 33, because they wanted to take a family vacation in September. My husband, 46, and I, 41 female, can't afford to go because I'm currently out of a job. Even though this would be the first family vacation I will have ever missed, and it made me really sad, I said I would of course help. My mum even mentioned to me that, in a way, it's good because I'd be able to watch my brother's pugs and my parents' chihuahua. Here's the thing about watching the dogs though. It's a 24/7 job that requires me to stay at my brother's house. The dogs are wonderful, but they are very high maintenance. And because of this, I've been telling my brother for nearly 10 years that he needed to hire a dog sitter, because money isn't an issue for him. I've dog sat for them 3 times this past year, varying from 1 to 5 nights. They paid me well, but I don't feel comfortable staying at their house, and I find the round-the-clock care exhausting. My husband and I have 5 cats, and we are no stranger to feeling like our pets are our kids. But we don't have dogs for a reason. Now I'm supposed to be booking this trip for my brother, but he hasn't even asked me about watching the dogs. Sunday at family dinner, everyone's there except my sister-in-law who was ill. My brother was sitting across from me, so I reach out to hold his hand and say that I love him, I love the pugs, but I can't watch them when they go on vacation and that he needs to get a dog sitter. I said it was just too much to ask me to be trapped at their house for 7 nights, and that I've been asking him to hire a dog sitter for nearly a decade. I even offered suggestions and said that I'll help find someone. He starts to get reactive and says that they won't watch my cats anymore. I said that's fine, we have a cat sitter, but I point out that I ask them if they can help. They, on the other hand, did not ask me. My brother finally concedes that it is a lot to ask 7 nights and 5 dogs. Excuse me? Yes, 5 dogs, because his mother-in-law apparently was planning to go too. So now added to the mix are 2 Italian greyhounds. I stay calm, and I gently point out that I felt this way before knowing that there were 5 dogs. Can he imagine how I felt? He seemed to understand. By the time I left dinner, there were hugs and kisses and all was well. I knew that my brother was upset, but he seemed to understand, and I was really proud of putting up boundaries. The next evening, I call my parents to see if they've heard from my brother. Apparently, he called them after he got home from family dinner and was blindsided by me. My sister-in-law was just as upset as him too. They think I'm throwing a tantrum because I can't go on vacation. While yes, that does suck, I told him my real issue is being trapped in their house for 7 nights. Now they are cancelling the vacation because I won't watch the dogs. Am I the asshole for telling them that I won't do it? In the comments, Having Hope 3594 says, not the asshole. They are grown people who had plenty of time to find arrangements for their dogs. Didn't they have somebody else to watch the dogs when you all traveled together? Is this a weird ploy to punish you by making you feel guilty or something? This seems reactive. OP replies, the only time we've all traveled together was for my brother's wedding, which the dogs came to. This would be an international beach trip, which we haven't had in, I guess, over a decade. To be fair, he couldn't go to the last trip in 2015, and I went, but I only had the one cat that had no special requirements at the time, so my roommate watched her. So I feel bad for him for not being able to go on the family vacation, although it feels self-induced to me at this point. But I am very emotional, and I can't tell if my judgment is clouded. Not going is his choice. He could find or pay a dog sitter if he wanted. He's blaming you to divert the blame from himself. You are doing what is best for you. This 100%. Our 2 dogs go to their doggy daycare when we go on vacation. I believe everyone is happier. If my dear husband and I travel without our son, my parents take care of all of them at our house. Not the asshole. They can hire a pet sitter. It's not your household to take responsibility for. Edit, I also don't understand why they needed your help to book it. OP replies, oops, I took that part out because I was way over the character limits. I can book like a travel agent and waive my commission so that they can save a few hundred. I realize how awful that sounds in context to this post, but it's easy for me to do, and as someone that loves to do things for others but currently doesn't have the budget for it, it's something I'm happy to do. So they get a discount by not paying you for your services and expect you to watch 5 dogs 24/7 and live apart from your spouse to do so. How much do they usually pay you for the normal 3? Because I bet it's not nearly as generous as they tell you it is. OP replies, so this isn't a super common situation for us, despite what my harping on this for 10 years implies. I went over my character limit, so I couldn't add this bit of context. My brother set the precedent nearly 10 years ago that the dogs could never be alone at night because of separation anxiety. So when he was single and traveling for work, my mum had to stay the night there with the dogs. And since she lived way closer than me, and I had an office job, she would go back and forth to the house every 5 hours to let them out. Back then, I used to say that it wasn't fair to mum and that he needed to hire a dog sitter. My mum loved it because the pug cuddles are amazing and they are good dogs, but I was still vocal that it was way too much to ask mum. Last year, my husband and I bought a house a mile away from my brother, and the dog care has fallen to me because why would I make my mum continue to do that when it's easier for me? The first time I did it, I was extremely anxious, but I didn't complain because it was so my brother and sister-in-law could take a family vacation with her dying father. I had 4 dogs then, and it was $500 for 5 days. To be completely honest, I would not have accepted the money if I hadn't just lost my job. To me, that's what family is for. There was another couple times for 1, and then 3 nights due to a family emergency with my sister-in-law's family, so again, no problem. I've dropped by a couple of times to let the dogs out back to potty when asked. And even recently, there was a day that neither my mum or I were available to let the pugs out when a situation came up, and I specifically told my brother that he needed to have a trusted pet sitter on hand and hire them before he needs them. But this is the first time that I feel like it's completely different and not right for them to ask me to do all of this. It feels like taking advantage, and it feels like when my mum had to stay there when my brother traveled all over again. And I'm not willing to put myself through it for a long vacation when this is exactly the scenario that I've been harping on. I don't think you're the arsehole for making them cancel their family vacation because you didn't make them cancel that vacation. They did it out of spite to make you the arsehole because their hands were pretty much tied. They either had to pay for the pet sitter or they had to leave the dogs home alone. Either way, you're winning because they either get viewed as a terrible person for abandoning their pets, which won't happen, or the dog sitter gets paid for, which is a win for you. But instead, them taking the absolute nuclear option gets to put them in a positive spotlight because you can get scapegoated. And I'm surprised that the rest of your family is on their side, seemingly, and doesn't see how manipulative that is. That's very odd, and I'd say a bit telling as to your position in the family and how the family views you. Tread carefully, not the arsehole. And now, on to the updates. So my brother apologized, and we were having a very good and calm conversation. We were getting to a point where I was willing to make a compromise because I finally felt heard. Then my sister-in-law, who had an attitude the whole time, snappily said, "Okay, so what do we need to do to resolve this?" Things started to get heated because I felt her tension and tried to acknowledge it.
I said that I was really hurt by my sister-in-law's actions. I left it out of my OG post, but she was complaining about helping me clean my house before my wedding. I later found out that she told my dad that I had moldy dishes in the sink and that it was humiliating. I said it hurt a lot when I learned that she brought it up again as a part of her argument as to why I should watch the dogs. She sarcastically said, "Oh, so I'm the villain?" I said, "I feel like from what I've gathered from my parents this past week that you think I'm sabotaging this vacation because I'm jealous that I can't go. And if you think that, you really must not know me, and that hurts." And she said with the same rude tone as earlier, "I must not know you because this is 100% what I think." My eyes welled up because I felt like she had just sucker punched me. And she looked at me and said, "Here comes the temper tantrum." I stood up to leave. Then I turned around again and said, over everyone yelling my name to calm down, "If you, with all your time, money, and resources, decide to not go on vacation, that's your own decision and not because of me." I got the hell out of the house and sat in my car until my husband came out. She was in my wedding. I have been so happy to have her as my sister-in-law. I have been nothing but loving to her. Now I see that she doesn't give an F about me. I'm gutted. It's clear that she has zero respect for me and probably never even liked me. I'm devastated because my family is everything, and I feel like my relationship with my brother will be forever altered. She is not the person that I thought she was. And now I'm not only not watching the dogs, but I guess I'm also accepting that I don't have a sister like I thought I did. In the comments, Interesting Order 82 says, "Not the asshole. Cut contact with the sister-in-law. They're mad because you won't watch their dogs, and that's on them, not you." I'm just curious about the anger displayed by sister-in-law. Her comments and responses to the conversation would have torpedoed any such discussion with anyone, including Mother Teresa. I hope the rest of the family realizes that sister-in-law is a two-faced asshole and villain to the nth degree. She has decided that she's entitled to OP's assistance. She's not asking for a favor, she's demanding what is already hers. She's offended by OP's disobedience. I'm proud of you, OP. Your sister-in-law wants free service and is showing her true colors. Do not feel bad about the situation at all. If there is a villain, it's not you by any means. That's what I first thought, and then I read the original post and she says that she did pay her well for watching the dogs. I'm just flummoxed how it's such a big deal for them to then pay a sitter, and they're this angry and aggressive about it too. In the original post, OP mentions that they pay well, but lots of comments of OP tried to make her realize that they're paying way below market rates, especially with the requirements they placed on OP. I think you should take a long look at your mother as well. Her comment about it being a good thing that you can't come to a family vacation is very hurtful in my opinion as well. As long as you can do her a favor, your company is not needed. Please stay firm and tend to people who are deserving of you. Yeah, and why was OP the one to do all the trip arrangements when all of the people actually going on the trip are able-minded adults? There's something in the dynamic with OP's mum and sister-in-law that ain't right. I would definitely take a step back from helping them with shit and sharing personal information with them. I'm still of the opinion that they just hate you, OP, and, they've hated you this whole time. You're not a part of that family. Your own mother hates you as well. Why does your own mother resent you? Yeah, it's a good thing that you, my daughter, aren't coming on family vacation. I hate you, and I'm standing by the sister-in-law here, my real daughter. I don't blame you for feeling as though you've been sucker punched in your throat, OP. That would send me to my knees, that's for sure. You're just being abused and used left, right, and center by those closest to you. I'd take this at face value. They have shown who they really are, and I'm going low contact with everyone. No contact with sister-in-law, absolutely. I'm just finding a new group of people to be my family. Christ on a bike, I hope you were dealing well with this situation, OP. I feel terrible for you. Our next post is by a throwaway account titled, "Am I the asshole here for leaving my fiance after he asked me if he could sleep with a woman one last time?" This might be long, I don't know. I'm feeling a lot. So me, 31 male, gay, and my fiance, 32 male, bisexual, have been together for 9 years and engaged for 1. We're meant to get married in 2 months. My time with him has been perfect, literally 0 complaints. Honestly, I didn't think that I'd find someone who got me the way that he does. Then the world remembered that it hates me and decided to F my shit up since I had it too good for too long. Last week, my fiancé sat me down and told me that he wanted to discuss something with me and to keep an open mind. Sure. He said since we're getting married, he wanted to know if I would be okay with him having one night where he could sleep with a woman. My heart broke instantly. My dreams and hopes and plans vanished in an instant, and the marriage that I was eager to begin was dead. At the very beginning of our relationship, when he asked to be exclusive, I told him that there will never be anyone else in our life, just us. No one is coming into our bedroom. There will be no cuck fantasies, no Eiffel Towers, nothing. I made it clear that if he ever asked me for anything of the sort, the relationship was over immediately. There will be no conversation about it. It is done. He agreed. He said monogamy was the only thing for him and he doesn't want anyone else. Before I keep going, I do want to explain why I am the way I am. I won't give a lot of details, actually almost none, but I'll give enough to understand hopefully. Between the ages of 8 and 14, I was taken advantage of by really my only friend at the time. When I was 8, he was 15. Only other kid on the streets. My mother was a drug addict and cheated on my father constantly, so she didn't notice anything. My dad was never home because wife was awful to be around, and a kid who stayed in his room alone all the time, so he wouldn't have seen anything to be concerned about anyway. I tried to tell my mother once, but I couldn't even say it before I was yelled at and told to get out of her room, and I never tried to bring it up again. Fast forward to me being a not stupid child, I put pieces together and found out why my dad was never there to help me, why my mum didn't care enough to question why the horny teen was taking me outside for hours, and when I got home, I just wanted to be alone in my room. I put all my childhood issues on cheating. As a result of my fun little quirky younger years, I am borderline. I have anxiety and panic attacks whenever I hear people screaming, and depression, blah blah blah. I have problems. After being with my fiancé for about 1.5 years, I talked to him about my past and why I feel the way I do about things, and he was very understanding, very comforting. Despite it being my story, I had to wipe his tears away a few times. I know he cares for me, I know he loves me, and wants to spend our forever together. Back to present day, I'm in a hotel room alone. Everyone I've told this to has said that I'm crazy and stupid and need therapy, and they don't understand how I can throw it all away over my partner being honest and open with me about something like this. He didn't actually cheat, he just wants to. Lol? He has said that he won't do it. He needs me more than any feeling a woman can give him. I am his everything. He's called me twice since I started typing this and messaged me really sweet things, so I'm at a point where I don't know what I'm doing. I look at the future and I see him. My entire adult life, I've had the mentality of, if they want to cheat, they will. So he's asking me now, and if I say no, he will eventually do it anyway, but won't tell me next time. That is where my decision to leave comes from. He will grow to resent me for denying him the thing that he wants. I don't want to be that person 30 years from now, finding out that my husband has had 50 affairs during our marriage with a bunch of women. When I'm with someone, I'm with them. I don't look at other people. I don't even entertain advances that anyone makes towards me. I don't flirt with anyone else. I'm devoted in every way. People are making me feel crazy for wanting the same energy given back to me. I can't wrap my head around him wanting to kiss someone else, to be an inch away from them and smile, and then start banging. I don't want to think about it, but it's all I'm thinking about. It's been almost 8 days since I left, and it's my only thoughts. I am losing my mind in a shitty hotel room thinking about the guy that I love, screwing some random woman who doesn't exist. I'm lost. I don't know what to do. I do want to say how amazing he is. He buys me flowers every Friday, he stands up for me when no one else does, he looks for me in every room, he makes me feel like I matter. He makes my greyest days bright and clear, and the smile that I used to fake isn't fake anymore. He's never judged me for the things that I do. He's never made me feel bad for having off days. He just makes me feel loved. My birthday was last month, and he made me a book filled with pictures of us that he's taken over the years, with the last page being blank so that he can add our wedding picture eventually. Above each picture was what he was thinking when he took it, and below is how he was feeling at the time. Part of me is I need constant reassurance that he does love me, so I ask him those things a lot. It means everything to me, and it's my favorite thing that I own. I'm just trying to say that he is really great despite this one thing. He said he will do anything for me to come back. We can push the wedding back and just work on us, or we can call it off completely and just be together. He will never bring it up again, and he is deeply sorry he ever wanted to do it, and I believe him. Time changes people though. I just want an unbiased opinion from someone whose life will not change whatsoever by my decision. They tend to be more truthful. I love him, and when I look at pictures of him, I hear wedding bells, and I see the house that he wants to buy with me and the 2 kids he wants to adopt at some point. I don't want the rehashed, when trust is gone, it doesn't come back, or, you know the answer, leave. I do trust him. I don't trust the things I'm telling myself over and over about what may happen in the future. He has never given me reason to not trust him, but I don't know. Tell me the truth. Do I stay the course, go back to him and give him permission to screw random women and come home to me after with a fake smile and live with him forever? Or do I go back to him and tell him no, he can't cheat and hope for the best? Sorry if I rambled. I'm all over the place mentally. I've deleted a good 7 paragraphs, so this was worse. I really did try to make this readable. If any more information is needed, please ask. In the comments, Advance Effort 8865 says, "Hey, it sounds like you're going through an incredibly tough and emotional situation. Here's my take. First and foremost, your feelings are valid. You have a history that deeply affects your perspective on relationships and trust. It's understandable that your fiance's request has triggered a lot of pain and fear for you. Option 1, stay the course. You've made your boundaries clear from the start, and it's reasonable to uphold them. If your core values are being compromised, it's important to honor your own needs and mental health. It's not about whether others think that you're overreacting, it's about what you can live with and feel safe and happy with. Option 2, go back and give permission. This option seems to go against your deeply held beliefs and the trauma that you've experienced. It's likely to cause more harm than good to your mental health and the relationship itself. Forcing yourself to accept something you're not comfortable with could lead to resentment and further emotional damage. Option 3, go back, say no, and hope for the best. If you choose to go back and set the boundary that he cannot sleep with someone else, you need to ensure that this is a firm and mutual understanding. It's important to communicate clearly and work together to rebuild trust. This will also require a lot of ongoing, open communication and possibly professional counseling to navigate the underlying issues and rebuild a foundation of trust. Additional steps to consider: 1. Couples therapy. Professional guidance can help both of you navigate this complex situation, understand each other's perspectives, and find a path forward that respects both your needs. 2. Personal therapy. Continue working on your own mental health to ensure that you are making decisions that are best for your well-being. 3. Open dialogue. Have an honest, open conversation with your fiancé about how deeply this has affected you, and listen to his side as well. Understanding each other's feelings can sometimes bring clarity. And 4. Time apart. Sometimes a bit more time apart can help both of you gain perspective on what you truly want and need from the relationship. Ultimately, you deserve to be in a relationship where you feel safe, respected, and loved. Take the time that you need to make a decision that aligns with your values and ensures your well-being. This says it better than I could. I would say at the very least, do not get married right now. Do some soul-searching and think about what you want, not what everyone else wants you to do, including us on Reddit. And now, onto the updates. Okay, I don't know if anyone actually cares about the outcome, but my original plan was to talk to him today, bring up therapy, maybe go back to our apartment or just stay for the rest of my hotel reservation, but that did not happen. I folded. I got drunk as hell on Sunday night, and he called me at about 10:30ish, and I told him where I was because he said he wanted to explain in person. Sober me would have said no to that shit over the phone. Drunk me is a hoe. He came over, and he started explaining, but honestly, nailed me to a cross. I will die for the sins I know every single one of you would commit if you could see his face. I don't care, we did shit. After that, he did explain. His best friend, who's always had issues with me, has been trying to convince him for months if he doesn't sleep with a woman again, he will end up cheating on me in the future. He didn't believe it at first, but after a few months, his friend wore him down. I know he's not lying. He showed me texts going back to February, every so often his friend bringing it up. His friend has always not liked me. I don't think he's okay with my fiance being bi. The first time he introduced me to his friends, his best friend was very standoffish and didn't interact with me. At one point, someone asked if I was into hiking. I am, and she said, "Oh, best friend is also really into it." I said, "That's cool. Do you know any good spots since I just moved here and haven't found any yet?" He said no and started talking to someone else. Okay, sure, dick. There was a bunch of other little shit over the years, like always bringing up his ex-girlfriend in front of me, blah blah blah. You get the gist. I think he knew that I'd leave if my fiance asked me for this. My fiance said he doesn't want to do it and he wanted me to say no and that we would move on. Wedding is still on hold. I have the ring back, it's on a chain around my neck. I want therapy, and I'm still with him. Too many of you convinced me in private DMs with your personal stories about how helpful it was in your relationships. You wore me down. I also want to know what a paid professional thinks about his best friend, because honestly, I'm done with him. I don't want him at my wedding, I don't want to see his face, I don't want him to be my fiance's best man. Sorry to disappoint, I know a lot of you were calling for his head. I was in the same mindset for most of my life until I was put into the shoes that I am in now. It's hard. Trying to throw that love out the window and leave is hard. It was also a misunderstanding, so I overreacted anyway. I do want to thank you all. I expected my post would be like many others. Get a few replies and that's it. I got a lot more than that and most were helpful. Some were jokes, some were just trying to convert me to be straight, and some were just trying to gaslight me. Thank you for the actual advice, and I'm sorry so many people related to my struggles. I expected a few, but I got at least 100 DMs talking about their trauma and how it's affected them in their adult lives and how they think that I should move forward. Bittersweet, but I'm glad that I wasn't alone in my struggles. For the questions, are you in therapy? Yes, I'm in individual therapy. Have been for years. I'm also on meds, mood stabilizers, benzos, and antidepressants. Therapy only goes so far. I know the post made me sound kinda psychotic, but I also left all of my meds at the apartment, so I was on day 8 of clean living and I skipped my last therapy appointments. I never claimed to make good decisions. Is there another woman? No. Why would you get with a bi man when this is pretty common? This is not pretty common in my opinion, and you're biphobic. I don't have any issues with his sexual orientation. If anything, I like that he's not completely gay, and no, I will not elaborate on why. Why didn't you just talk to him? Because if he said that there was another woman that he was looking at, I would have found the nearest bridge and YOLO'd off of it. What kind of friends would say that shit to you? They're his friends, really. When I moved here in my early 20s, I met him quickly. Less than a year when I got here, we went on a date. He introduced me to his friends, and his friends became my friends. I would hang out with them without my fiancé and vice versa. In hindsight, I don't think that they were being malicious. They've always been nice and welcoming, excluding that one person. They just liked seeing us together and didn't want to see us apart. After almost a decade of seeing a couple, and I can understand that they would want to see us last. I don't have any negative feelings towards any of them. Are you going to bring up moving? A few people asked after I brought up what he would have to do to get me back immediately, and I said move. No, I won't bring it up, I think. I do want to. I'd love to be closer to his family since I don't have any, and I love being around them. They all live in Seattle, and we're in Boston. Don't get to see them much. If I do bring it up, I might wait till this situation clears up completely. Why are you denying who he is? I'm not. He can jerk off to women, I don't care. He can't touch 'em though. How can you throw 9 years out the window over a question? It's the one question I asked him not to bring up. I thought I made that clear in my post. I can overlook a lot of things, and I do, but that one thing, I can't. I still can't. If he was serious about it, I don't think I would stay. I'm not going to let him walk outside, screw a woman, and come back with cookies in my hand and a smile on my face. Did that feel good, baby? Here's a cookie and some milk. Be for real. You may be walked on in your life, but that is not me though. Do some roleplay in the bedroom. He might just want a feminine aspect. OP says, I will not upload a picture of myself as it defeats the purpose of making a throwaway account. However, I'm 6'4", weigh 230-ish pounds, I work in a garage, and I've spent 15 hours a week in the gym for the last 7 years, and I have scars all over my body with a few in my face. My skin is not soft, and I look like if I meet you in a dark alley, I'll shank you. I'm not feminine. I think he'd laugh if he saw me walk out in lingerie and a wig. I would too, to be honest. That's it for now. I might update after a bit of therapy, but probably not. I don't know. I don't think many will care after they read that I didn't chastise him. Thank you again for all the actually helpful advice. I didn't expect any of it, but I'm very grateful. Edit. Y'all judged the F out of me for not demanding he drop his lifelong best friend. I don't care. We talked last night, I brought up my issues, and he said he was leaning towards cutting him off entirely anyway. They are no longer friends. Y'all can stay on your toxic relationships, making demands and ultimatums. I will not be doing any of that though. I'm not a doormat. Y'all genuinely sound bitter that I'm not alone like you are, and I don't know, argue with the wall. In the comments, throwaway sad wife 123 says, and why isn't your fiance dropping his supposed best friend like a hot potato? If you want to continue the relationship, you do you, but I would not continue to do so with this so-called friend being a negative influence on your life. I don't know why your fiance hasn't done that already. The fact that it's up for debate for him being your significant other's best man when he actively tried to get him to sleep with a woman is mind-boggling. Therapy. Dump the friend, waiting on pause for all of this, figure out why your significant other allowed him to be manipulated in the first place. Good luck. OP replies, I don't want to tell him too. It's a thing that I used to do with isolating people, and I don't want to do that to him. I'm hoping he'll just tell me why and do it himself, but I think therapy will make him realize the actual reason. Thank you. I'm not a doormat, the doormat exclaimed defensively. To be honest, OP sounds manic in the updates, and it's bad to be off his meds and skipped therapy. He is not okay at all, and his fiancé is all too comfortable to weasel his way in thanks to that. Am I the asshole here for refusing to eat dinner because my husband added unnecessary spices? My husband and I alternate days to cook dinner and clean up. He recently started a medication that is zapping his energy, so I've been cooking and cleaning full-time for the past month. It's getting exhausting working full-time, cooking every meal, meal prepping, cleaning the whole house, etc. I know that it won't be forever, and I am willing to carry the load while he gets sorted out. I was in the middle of prepping the chickens for tonight's dinner, and he offered to take over. At first I said, no, it's okay, I'll do it, because he had a stressful workday, but he insisted, so I did oblige him, but I asked that he stick to the spices that I took out of the counter and the ratios, because the chicken will be sauced, and I don't want the spice and sauce to be battling on the plates. He was to use salt, pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, and Tony's spice. Who's Tony and why is he making spice? It was going to be sauced with Panda Express teriyaki sauce. We aren't fine diners, but I wanted it a certain way. He agreed to stick to the plan. I went upstairs to change our sheets and pick the bedroom up. When I came downstairs, the chicken was on the cutting board covered in smoked paprika and red chili flakes. I looked at him and he at me with this, oh shit, I'm caught kinda look. I said, wow, that was disrespectful, and I'm not eating that. He scoffed and said, it's 2 extra spices. It's fine. He followed that up with, I saved a chicken breast in case that you saw it before it was cooked. I'll make that one the way that you want. I refused to accept that because he looked me in the face and said he wouldn't stray from the plan and then did it anyways in the hopes of not being caught. I'm not a picky eater and will pretty much eat anything, but I can't get past the blatant disrespect on this. I know some of my emotions are coming from the exhaustion of having to carry the team right now, but I still don't think this makes me the asshole. Does it? Edit to clarify on the chicken breast. He didn't intentionally keep the chicken breast out for me if I didn't like his spice choice. I de-thawed the extra chicken for tomorrow's meal and was planning on using it later. He concocted the idea that he wanted the chicken a certain way. He sees extra chicken, so why not do it his way? And if I don't want it, he has a plan B. In the comments, Shellstrip says, as they say here, this is not about the Iranian yogurt. You need to sit down with your husband when you are both calm and rested and actually talk to each other. Communicate your feelings to each other. This isn't about going crazy with spices and chicken, that's the symptom, not the issue. Also, take the medication into account, right? Like, it sounds like OP is supportive, but personally, I'd feel different about a strength-sapping cancer treatment than I'd feel about, oh baby, my hair growth pills make me tired and moody, but it's a small price to pay to look younger at 50 years old, you know? When we get male birth control pills, is this gonna happen as well? Damn it, babe, I just can't do it today. My hormonal contraception's making my balls ache, okay? I'm totally using that excuse when it happens. It's gonna be so funny. This one boggles me. Why didn't he just split the chicken into 2 portions? Cook one the way that he likes and the other way that you want it. Why did he have to cook all of it his way? A considerate person would do that. Make yours your way and theirs their way. Inconsiderate people do whatever they want and will hit you with a, it's not a big deal, I'm making it so it's my decision. You just do it yourself then. It's easier and less work for them to do it their way, and they don't care about your feelings, just their comfort. And they will always delude themselves into thinking that they're right because they are inconsiderate and don't care how you feel. Only how they feel matters, and how dare that you care. It's always your fault for being sensitive. As you can tell, when you deal with this over a long period of time, something will be the final straw that breaks the camel's back. And until then, every small thing is going to nag at you little by little. Just solve it, whatever you need to do. Try couples therapy if he can't listen. Don't make him dinner anymore. I don't know. Something has to give. Don't let this bring your already precious time down any longer. Sucks that he's your husband, but for me, this is my sister, and I hate it. Every day it feels like they have zero respect for you. My rule when cooking for my family was always that it's no extra effort for me to leave things out if you don't want them. But if you want anything extra, you have to do it yourself. I used to make mini quiches. I like cheese and bacon in my quiche. My sister didn't eat pork, so I made most of them with cheese and bacon and left some of them as cheese only for my sister. My dad wanted vegetables in his, and I didn't, so he had to chop his own vegetables and add them himself. Same with breakfast sandwiches. My sandwich had egg and bacon and cheese. I made one without bacon for my sister and one without egg for my brother. But if he wanted to add sausage, it was his responsibility. Mary Sue says, his thinking is that he's right and she's wrong, and she'll realize that when she's eating the chicken, and then she'll be grateful that he didn't listen to her. Paprika teriyaki? Ugh, I suspect not. Maybe he'd have said that she chose the wrong spices if it didn't work out. He'd have to be assuming that her taste buds don't work, because she knows the taste that she wants, right? And if it's not the taste that she wants, she's gonna point it out. Is she just gonna be happy that all of a sudden her teriyaki is spicy? Like, what's going on? I feel you. It's not about the actual spices, it's about him not listening and doing as you asked. The exhaustion of doing everything is real, and I feel you. What he did was very disrespectful. Not just not doing what she asked, knowing he wasn't going to do it, going behind her back, and then this. I saved a chicken breast in case you saw it before it was cooked. He wasn't gonna tell her. He was just gonna hide it from her. That age-old adage just rings out once again. You're not sorry that you did it, you're sorry that you got caught. And I like that the edit here really dispels that "I saved you a chicken breast." Like, no you didn't. I saved the chicken breast. This was my plan from the start. That's a double lie from you, mate. It's not a good look. I think in this case, OP is absolutely correct to be upset about this because it was just blatant disrespect. It is obviously heightened by the exhaustion and doing everything for the husband. Even if the husband is going through chemotherapy and whatever drugs he's on is cancer treatment, it doesn't make what he did any less impactful. It doesn't matter what he's taking. The exceptions I will accept in this case are Alzheimer's and dementia, just being a geriatric in general. If he's not in his right mind, then sure. I'm exhausted, I've done all of this for you, and you're literally insane in the membrane right now, so you're not yourself, but you will be yourself in the future again, hopefully. That is an incredibly niche scenario, and I would think that's definitely not what's going on here. I'd also want to ask myself, if he has been this disingenuous and going behind your back with something as innocuous as this chicken, what else is he lying about? What else has he been doing that you haven't been seeing? Big old breaker of trust right there. And how do you repair a situation like that? How do you repair trust like this when it has been broken? Not the arsehole OP. And now, on to the updates. I'm not sure if this is the place to update, or if I make an edit to the post, but in any event, to answer a few questions, did my husband like his food? No. He told me the chicken breast he made the way that I requested was better. It's not really about the spices, I'm aware of that. There are bigger things afoot, but I was really made to feel like I was blowing it out of proportion by not eating it. Did I rinse the chicken off? No, I let him cook it and have it his way. Do we have different spice levels? Well, we're pretty even keel on this, but that's not really the issue. I do like smoked paprika and red chili flake, they just didn't have a place in this dish. Final update. My husband and I spoke about the disagreement and some bigger things at play, and we plan to talk again tomorrow when we have more time to sit and work out a plan. We've been married for 13 years. Yes, we married very young, and this isn't our first rodeo. We basically became adults together, so we know a thing or two about hard times and good times. We're currently watching our 88-year-old grandmother while her main caregiver is on vacation, so we don't have time tonight to dig deeper into what's going on at a bigger level. But plan to tomorrow after she's picked up in the evening. Thanks everyone for your thoughts and opinions. In the comments, Angeline says, "It's great that you're having a conversation, and it seems it isn't a pattern of his to listen to you and do something else. So maybe he just really wanted to try those spices together, but, well, he saw how that went. I hope you find a wonderful marriage and get a 'told you so' thrown in there." So he also used the chicken breast for tomorrow's dinner, seasoned it the way that you requested, and then ate it when he didn't like the chicken that he ruined. While you're not the asshole, your husband very much is one. Of course he didn't like the chicken. Those spices literally don't belong in that dish. He was trying to prove something and ended up looking foolish. Wild. So this man wasted food, ate the food that she'd set aside for a day, and she ate nothing? He also hasn't apologized? Again, this isn't about the food, but the disrespectful wastage of food somehow makes it even worse. This is about his ego. Oh man, I would die on this hill. Call me fat, call me ugly, tell me I'm bad in bed, but don't you dare insult my cooking by word or deed. Hands will be thrown, and those hands will be holding wooden spoons. I think all us women everywhere are sick of men not listening and just deciding to do shit. It's never about the spices. Not just not listening, but full-on lying, while screwing up other things, like tonight's dinner and tomorrow's dinner, and then seeing no problems with it. Shitty men have been tolerated for far too long. And it's always, I thought I knew better. Why? Why did you think that? Because you're a dumbass man whose head is shoved so far up your own ass that you can't possibly see how you'd be wrong? Just throw the whole lot of them away onto an island somewhere. There isn't a further update to this one, and I'm happy with this update personally. I'm just going to give them the benefit of the doubt that they're all cool, everything's all right. This is one of the many challenges of their relationship, of their marriage, and they will get through this together. If they've been going solid for 13 years, and this isn't a particularly big red flag for the wife, this is just par for the course with her and her husband, great. I'm very much happy for them. I hope they can work this one out. And I wish them nothing but the best for the future. You know, this is just one of life's many fights that you'll go through, but you'll end up stronger together if you can work through it in the end. Again, I wish them nothing for the best, and thank you for sharing your story, OP. I still think that you're not the asshole for this. Our next post is titled, I, 25 female, don't enjoy having sex with my current 25 male sex partner who is my ex-boyfriend from way back when. How do I end things kindly and with grace? Okay, so as the title suggests, I have a sex partner, well, soon not to be my sex partner, and I'm going to tell y'all why. For a little bit of background story, this guy and I have been friends for a pretty long time, since we were 5 years old. We ended up dating from elementary school into middle school, but ultimately breaking up halfway through the 6th grade. He was basically my first boyfriend, but I'm 100% sure that we didn't love each other romantically. We did love each other generally, though. Oh, come on, I'm 100% sure you didn't love each other romantically. You're in the 6th grade, come on. Why are you at 25 years old entertaining the fact that it was possible that you loved each other romantically? What? Now into our adult years, I, 25 female, and him, 25 male, had sex a week after the new year of 2024. And if I'm being honest, it wasn't all that great. There was no foreplay, no dirty talk, and his main concern was making sure the neighbors didn't hear us. It was pretty much a turn-off. But after that day, he left for Canada, where I felt that would be the end of our sexual adventures with each other, and I was absolutely fine with that. Fast forward to the month of July 2024, he texts me checking in and asking if I was single. He did that sometimes before, to see if I was dating someone, seeing someone, or so on, but I didn't really care. We were friends who had sex, but I didn't see that as a big deal since he knew where I stood with relationships currently. Now this texting between us lasted longer than I had intended, but I won't shy away from the fact that he wanted sex. I wasn't planning on having sex with him again because of how much of a turn-off it was the first time between us, but I thought, maybe it'll be different this time, and maybe I will like it, so I said, okay, see you soon. Since he came back, we've only had 3 sex dates, and each one I did not like. He cared if the neighbors heard us, there was no foreplay, no dirty talk, and every time he hit the right spot, he would switch it up and maybe not have me moan as much. Honestly, it just made me want him to hurry up and come and just effing leave. I even gave him head and he never offered to do the same. I even suggested 69ing, but it was like that went right over his head, or he chose to ignore it. Since our last sex date, July 15th, 2024, I made up excuses on why I wasn't available, and since then, I've been thinking of ways to kindly say, you effing suck at sex. Opie, I don't understand what's in it for you telling him he's bad at sex. Why not just say, I don't want to have sex with you anymore, and just leave it at that? What's going on? You never listen to my needs. It's like you come to get yours, like you're the only one that has to get pleasured, and it's a huge turnoff. You might as well pleasure your damn self with someone else, or by yourself, without sounding like a major witch. Even last night, he texted me to see if I was available, and I didn't even bother to leave him on read nor reply. Sex with him has left me moody, cranky, and unsatisfied to the point where I don't even care if I lost him as an overall friend. And for all those times we've had sex, he's come every time, and I none. After he leaves, I literally turn to my dildo and vibrator to get the job done where he couldn't. Here's what he does during sex. I ask him to go harder, he does it for a second, and then goes back to doing his thing, which is basically rolling himself inside of me. So weird. I ask him to stimulate my clit, and he takes his cock out and taps it with his fingers where he missed every time, I may add. When I ask him to play with my boobs or me as a form of foreplay, it's completely ignored. The routine is simple for him. touch the nipple a bit, kiss the neck a bit, enter me until he comes. I don't know if it's a lack of sex experience on his part or the fact that we're just sex partners, and he doesn't feel the need to please me, but I'm not for the shit no more. But overall, he's a good guy whose feelings I don't want to actually hurt, but want to end this unsatisfying sex life with. Any advice on how to do that kindly without hurting any ego or pride from a male's perspective? In the comments, Glinda the Witch says, I think the best thing to say is that there's someone you're interested in dating and you want to put the friends with benefits relationship on hold. That way you're not hurting any feelings, you don't lose a friend, and hopefully you can find someone that you are more sexually compatible with. And whatever you do, don't introduce him to any of your girlfriends. OP says, I didn't even think of that. I'll definitely do that, and the only girlfriend that knows from my group is my bestie and my sister. We keep things tight-lipped around here. Thank you for leaving him without feedback. He will never learn, and as a 40-year-old woman, I ask myself and the guys I'm with, why on earth they are bad at sex at this age? They answer, well, no women ever complained. Please, ladies, tell them in a nice way when a guy is bad at sex. It's a girl's girl thing. OP says, that's why I posted, so I can get advice on how to do that. How to tell him nicely without hurting an ego. I'm not sure if you are being sarcastic or offering advice here. I'm not a very diplomatic person, therefore I can't say the right words, but I beg you to give him a serious and honest feedback so he can learn. It's a huge social issue that women accept bad sex. OP says, I will try. My only problem here is that he may want to try again with me, and honestly, this sex was bad to the point that the very thought of him even trying to see if he could do better is off-putting. I will give him feedback in the nicest way I can, but sex life for me and him is definitely done. I'm just asking how I can give him that feedback alongside saying, yeah, but we're not having another go. You can try that with someone else who doesn't know your sex habits or actions. Real talk, I feel this. Sometimes there is no improvement, ever. It feels like pure ignorance. OP replies, I'll have to give you an update because shit got real funny. You won't believe it. Look, fair enough. If it's girl advice and you don't want the next girl being affected by whatever it is he's bringing to the bedroom or whatever he isn't bringing to the bedroom, especially by the sounds of it, you go ahead and give him that advice. Maybe it's because I'm just such a sex god myself that I've never had that. I'm kidding. I'm not perfect, like I said I was in the last episode. Believe it or not. But no, I get where you're coming from. I absolutely understand that. Then I feel like some guys just need you to be so blunt with them and be like, hey, you weren't doing this for me in the bedroom. This is how you could improve. This is what you can do. And at the same time, I don't want to have sex with you again. Some guys really do need you to be blunt because, let me frame it like, their love language is not understanding subtleties. I'm gonna just beat around the bush with it a little bit like that. Yeah, that I feel like a lot of people understand that, right? And now, on to the updates. I'd first like to thank everyone for their advice and support with how I should better go about breaking things off with this guy. Now moving on to the updates. Yesterday was the day that I decided to tell the guy, for the sake of the story we'll call him Ken, that I didn't want to have sex with him anymore. It was pretty easy to meet up and talk since we live in the same area. So I shot him a message asking him to talk, and he was very quick to respond. He came to my place where I invited him in and we sat down in the living room area. I offered him a glass of water, which I never do when he comes over for the deed, which makes him immediately ask, what did you want to talk about? I don't understand. If you're having sex with this guy, why not offer a glass of water? You're going to be dehydrated when you have sex. I feel like offering water is mandatory and par for the course, is it not? Surely that's a respect thing, right? I sat down across from him. I already knew that I didn't want to hurt his ego, his pride, nor disrespect his manhood, so saying what everyone said on Reddit and in my friend group, I decided to tell him something between a white lie and the truth. I said, sorry that I asked to meet now after not replying to your message Friday night, but I want to pause on the sex because I'm seeing this guy and we want to really see where things will go. Sorry for the late updates. We were in the midst of figuring it out. I wanted to tell when we were sure. In this moment, he looks to the ground as he talks. He could look me in the eyes and refuse to do so and said, "Nah, it's cool. I was also going to tell you that we needed to stop as well because I'm growing my relationship with God. I got baptized, and it's just time to change my ways." What? What? Where did that come from? Now, this took me by surprise because I know he was doing his church thing in Canada, so that means that he had to have gotten baptized when he was in Canada, which also means that he did it before he came back to New York and before he had sex with me the second, third, and fourth time before I decided to do this. My honest reply was, "What?" And he asked if he could step out for a minute, and I said okay. At this point, we're both processing the information that we told each other. I was really wondering, how do you go from Freaky Friday to Holy Sunday in a day? Like, this was the same guy that wants to screw me Friday nights, Saturday passes, and now that I cut things off, you're a man of God? Completely sus, I say. I have completely accepted two things in this moment. That he knew that he was bad at sex, and he was trying to make the blow of me stopping sex with him look like a mutual decision. He was out there for a few minutes, so I had time to update some people on what was taking place, and pretty much everyone laughed. After some time, he finally came back in, and I asked, "Are you okay?" And he said yes, and I told him this is all for the best since we both had things that would have required us to leave the sexual relationship in the dust, and agreed, and we said our goodbyes. When I had shut that door, I thought that was the end of it, but it was not. About maybe half an hour, he texted me saying, "I just have one question for you though." At this point, I was hoping he would ask me where I got my glass that I poured him water in. It was a damn cute glass, but no. I said, "Sure, what is it?" And his reply was, "What's your honest opinion on my size and performance?" I could have honestly thrown my phone at the wall. At this point, I knew he knew that I didn't like sex with him, and he just wanted to confirm it. But I just wanted to know why he cared. Not like we were going to have sex ever again, and if you were focusing on God, why would you want to know? So I replied back, "Anything before God shouldn't matter. Focus on your relationship with God, and don't worry about these minor details. It doesn't make sense to." Because it really didn't make sense to. I didn't really care for size, because once you know how to work your shit, it's not a problem. But I knew answering that question would bruise his ego, hence why I answered the way I did, but he was not letting it go. He said, "Oh, I'm not worried. I just wanted your feedback." Now, my logic here is, most guys would want feedback during sex, not after the fact where the girl breaks it off and everything is already said and done. Are you sure about that? My little segue is that if you're breaking it off at this point, you're more likely to be honest about it. Why would you be honest that someone's bad at sex during sex? That's gonna hurt their ego. At what point would my feedback even matter? Right about now, I was just pissed that he asked and was done caring about his feelings because he was really operating on stupid. So I let him know. Honestly, sex with you made me want to cry in sadness. You left me completely unsatisfied every single time and cared more about the neighbors than my own effing needs. Your performance had me reaching for my dildo and vibrator every single time without fail because you failed to make me come. This reply is crazy. His reply, and I kid you not, was, "Lol, I figured." And I ended the conversation with the okay emoji, because that had me effed up. He basically laughed at being bad at sex. What? What do y'all think? Like, that's some weird shit, and he knew. When she goes low, I go lower. Amen. Word to Jesus, I'm a changed man, I'm a new man. He really said, only thing I'm pulling out of is her driveway after I'm done. Oh my god, you didn't even give him feedback after all of that, you just punched him. I mean, I don't blame you for not giving him constructive feedback, but you said you were gonna do it, and you didn't. In the comments, Glinda the Witch says, he clearly didn't care beyond his own personal satisfaction. He wasn't even trying. That makes him a shitty person as well as a crappy sex partner. Even a friends with benefits situation should be pleasurable for both parties. He deserved the truth. You shouldn't discuss all the details of him to your friends in group chats like that. He might be bad at it, but still deserves some discretion and respect. Oh, my sweet summer child, you don't know. Just because he deserves discretion and respect doesn't mean he's gonna get it, unfortunately, especially in this day and age. Lamau, you had an important conversation over text, and you share the intimate details of those arguments with a group chat? Are you 11? Dude, man, 22, do not look at the girls' group chat. Do not do that. For your own sanity. Unintentional Wipe says, he'll tell himself he was bad at it because it wasn't done with his wife. Unfortunately for him, if he doesn't get it together and stop being so selfish, his wife won't enjoy it either. Hopefully he's not a part of a Christian sect that doesn't allow for divorce. I fear he's going to give his wife a hard time. I broke things off with a guy a few years ago, and it was for the exact same reason. I asked him for things that would make me feel good, and he just didn't do them. Shrug emoji. I understand being nervous to a certain extent, but it almost feels like he was too embarrassed about not being confident in how to do things. So his solution was to not do them at all? I don't know. In my experience, part of what makes sex so enjoyable is making the other person feel good. I ask questions and do my best to pay attention to what gets reactions. It's like so fun when the other person is having a good time. When I cut things off, he also asked what the reason was, and I said as nicely as I could that it didn't really feel like he cared enough to make an effort into listening to me, and that I would suggest he be more attentive with his future partners. It sucks to hear, but I do feel like that kind of stuff can be more helpful in the long run. Hopefully he took the hit, dusted off, and was more thoughtful with his next partner. To be honest, that's how I've always done things. How are people supposed to improve or become self-aware, whether it's your want boyfriend privileges without putting in boyfriend efforts, or your literally don't listen when I say no, it's oh, as hell, dude, or I'm not your mom. I hope they are wake-up calls. I've gotten a few constructive responses myself, and it's uncomfortable, but in the end, usually helpful to my growth. Bungajot says, I agree. Honest feedback like this is so important, and stated in as nice a manner as one can. Sometimes people legitimately don't realize that they're not doing it for you. And this should never include comments about things that they can't help, i.e. dick or breast size, even if somebody's bits are a bit too big or too small or whatever for your preferences. That is when you pull the, I got a new boyfriend, he lives in Australia, and you've never met him. Sorry guys. That's me. You've never met me, have you? Just it's not me. I promise it's not me. I disagree. You absolutely do tell your girlfriends when a man is selfish in bed, especially to the point of ridiculousness. Extra, especially if he's in a friend group and it's a friends with benefits situation. That way they don't end up wasting their time. You mean the friends? Your girlfriends don't waste their time going to him afterwards? Am I picking up what you're putting down? Is that a thing? Yeah, I hate that. We're expected to do this much respecting of a person's feelings who can't even respect that we are people. A lot of times, and I said this before in a comment where people were going on about why was she updating the group chat, is she a child? Men who treat us like sex objects can also a lot of the time be very, very unsafe. He literally knew that he was bad in bed and made her have this terrible-ass, awkward-ass conversation that she clearly didn't want to, as a power play. But you don't think people should know about his behavior? Absolutely ridiculous, and part of a patriarchal society that protects the man no matter what. Is this one of these comments where it's like, we need to have this conversation, but I know y'all ain't ready for that, or something like that, right? But as you can tell from my opinion, I think, it's naive to expect that she's not going to update the group chats. If not for her own sanity, then for her safety and the safety of her friends and anyone on the exterior of those groups. At the end of this relationship, this guy has absolutely shown a bunch of red flag behavior because what is this weird, religion cop-out? He's obviously lying about it because if he was true to his religion so quick, then he wouldn't care about his performance. yet he still feels the need to do that. So that's someone that you can't trust. It's important that we let the girls know, and the same for guys. If there's a girl that's dangerous and one of your friends are interested in her, let them know. Anyway, guys, I do hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!